I am here with somebody who's actually been on stage for the majority of this conference, giving us a lot of incredible golden nuggets because he has a business that is thriving. So this is Randy. Randy, tell us kind of a little bit about your business, Perfect My Home.
Yeah, so we started in 2005 in Oklahoma, and we just kind of expanded to the whole state. We have 3 showrooms. We do outdoor living. Really, pools is our main product, but everything in the backyard is essentially what we do. We also are involved in retail as well. That's what our stores are for. And we've just been doing that for about 21 years now.
Wow. And I know that you've been working with clay. So how much has that helped your business, working hand in hand with Clay Clark?
Yeah, it's worked out really good. When I started with clay about 8 years ago, we were doing about 4.2 million, and we're up to about 15 million a year now. Yeah, it's been great.
Incredible. I know just from listening today and yesterday that he has so many great ideas for businesses, and that he also works really hard. So I think just working beside him, it would be hard not to work hard. Have you felt that's the case?
Oh yeah, he's super inspiring. Just lead by example. I think the most powerful thing is to watch what someone's doing, and that's what I've really learned more from Clay than anything. Is just hey, this guy's been where he's way past where I want to be, and that's the people I want to follow.
And he even says, and watch the people who are doing bad and don't do what they're doing.
Yeah, and the Bible says, a tree is recognized by its fruit in Matthew. And so you see clay, you see success, and that's the people I want to be associated with.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I love about this is that the Bible is intertwined in the whole thing. Yeah. That God is the true leader of these companies.
Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah, no, it's been great, and I would recommend clay to really anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, check it out, you guys. Thrivetimeshow.com. We're going to go check out some more of the business conference. We'll be right back.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. In a world filled with endless opportunities, why would 2 men who have built 13 multi-million-dollar businesses altruistically invest 5 hours per day to teach you the best practice business systems and moves that you can use? Because they believe in you, and they have a lot of time on their hands. They started from the bottom, now they're here. It's the Thrivetime Show, starring the former U.S. Small Business Administration's Entrepreneur of the Year, Clay Clark, and the entrepreneur trapped inside an optometrist's body, Dr. Robert Zuttner. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses.
We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here.
Started from the bottom, and now we're at the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. The seeds bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the CNC up on your radio, and now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here.
Everything on your calendar is really a calendar is really a mirror. It's a reflection of your priorities, and it's a date with yourself. And if you will not trust yourself with those things, then how can you be trusted with other things? So I don't schedule something and then not do it.
You got to schedule what gets scheduled, gets done. That's for your faith, right? Your family, your finances, your fitness, your friendship, So Saturday night when we wrap up this wonderful event, we'll be driving from Anaheim to Tulsa. For anybody who wants to make that trip, it's about 21 consecutive hours of just awesome. The state of New Mexico really goes by fast if you're not looking out the window and thinking about why it looks like a dystopian Mad Max movie. But New Mexico is New Mexico might need a kind of a redo. But so driving through New Mexico. So it's 21 hours, but I told my wife and kids, hey, let's do dinner Saturday night at 6. So we're going to do dinner Saturday night at 6, which means we have to leave, are we on the same page? And that's not more important. Being with my kids isn't more important than being here with you. And being here with you isn't more important than, it's about trade-offs. and it's scheduling time for what matters. We on the same page? Okay, all right. Next item, this is a to-do list, and I printed my actual to-do list. This is on the opposite side of the calendar, my to-do list. And the to-do list, that is challenging. Does anyone here write songs? That is challenging because I'm a songwriter. Some of you write songs. When you get a song idea, one, people think you're a bizarre creature when you're singing melodies into your phone by yourself in a crowded room. They're like, he's lost his mind again. But that's how a song, it comes from like a melody or a lyric or an idea, and then you have to block out time to work on it, and it takes a lot of iterations. Does anybody here carve something or make something with your hands? You make a product or you make something with wood, or anybody here make something? It requires iteration. Anybody here paint? Painters? You got to work on it. So you got to block out time for those kinds of things. And the problem is that money is just a vehicle to get you where you want to go, right? Right? So Sean, look it up, pull it up on the screen here. But the Bible says for the love of money, right? The love of money is the root of all evil. We'll break it down in just a moment. So what happens is some people think that money is the goal and money's not a vehicle. They get that confused. Money is not the destination. It's just a vehicle. And Dave, if you wanted to spend every His Glory episode entirely focused on making money, how would that change dramatically what you do?
It would completely dry up because that's not what we're for, and that's not what the Lord wants us to do. It's like a river that keeps flowing. It comes in to be able to get to 1 billion souls. Every dollar in is to get another soul. That's what it's all about.
But if you spent 0% of your day thinking about how you're going to pay for the production team and the videographers and the camera team and the designers and all the wonderful folks, if you spent 0% of your time thinking about how you're going to pay the actual people that work for you with the real bills you really have, what would happen?
We'd be in deep trouble. So there's got to be an inspection process. My inspection process is usually early in the morning, and later at night I'll go through our social media, check our production, just to see something that steps out. And every one of our broadcasts, we pre-tape them so I can see everything is going on, and we make corrections real time before it gets out.
And I'm not saying this, I'm not trying to give you fake examples that are to impress you, nor am I trying to depress you by sharing with you the harsh reality of entrepreneurship. But I know for me, I go to bed at 9. So I go to bed at 9, it's like 8:58, I'm going, I can see, sleep. So, I'm looking at my eyelids at 8:59, I'm out, okay? And then I'm waking up at 3 because nobody's up at 3. So no employees are calling in sick. We've got close to 90 employees. None of them are calling in sick. There's no issues. There's no political drama. Nobody's upset before about 6. Now, once the people wake up, now we have problems, okay? So I like to go to bed at 9 and wake up at 3, 9 and 3. That's my thing. And then I like to be done working at 6. That's my schedule, from 3 to 6 every day. 3 to 6, 3 to 6, 3 to 6. 6 days a week works for me. Take off the 7th. I'm not saying that's the routine you should have. I'm just saying that's my schedule. So I'm asking you right now, with your to-do list, you got to schedule a time every day to make your to-do list. And it should take about an hour to think about, okay, how was yesterday and how do I want today to go? And you have to do it every day, because if you don't design your day, chaos will happen by default. So, Andrew, what would happen if you did not design your days?
I would forget something that's important and very important. I start off by having calendar items. Every one of those items get done every day. But the task list or the to-do list, that's so long, I can't get through it all in one day. I end up having to carry over, but I make sure that I prioritize and get the ones that absolutely have to be done, completed before the day's end.
Now, Randy Antrican, I want to ask you this real quick here. Final question I have, and then we'll take a quick break before we introduce our next speaker here. Randy, what would happen if you did not have a calendar and a to-do list? Like, what would happen? What would happen to your day if you didn't get up every day, make the calendar, make the to-do list? What would happen?
Well, I don't think you can have one and not the other. You have to have both, because like my to-do list has 200 things on it, but if you don't have a calendar and schedule your priorities, what you're gonna do is default to the easiest thing on the list, and it's usually the items that don't move the needle, like buy something from Amazon, or just something easy will take its place. And I utilize my calendar to knock out all my hard stuff first, and I schedule my meetings around that. And that's how I get more done.
Now, folks, we're going to be introducing our next presenter in about 90 seconds, but this is what's going to happen is we'll have our next presenter, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do all the questions on the whiteboard, and then we're going to break for a late lunch. Does that make sense? So we'll have the speaker come up next, and then we're going to do Q&A, and then we'll take a late lunch. So feel free to find your seats. Everybody who's in the coffee shop, make your way to a seat here. Sean, play a little segue music. We'll come back here in 90 seconds. 90 seconds. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it very much. That's Dave Scarlett with His Glory. Let's hear it for him. Dave Scarlett. All right, that's Randy Antrick with PMH OKC. And that's Andrew Sorcini with bh-pm.com. Through the Reawaken America Tour, how many of you remember where you were when the lockdowns happened? You remember that? All right. Do you remember that, the lockdowns? Okay. And all I remember was I was praying for General Flynn relentlessly pre-lockdown. I was praying for him, and I was praying for President Donald J. Trump to become our 45th president of these United States. And not because I thought President Trump was perfect, but I thought he's a business guy, and in a way, our country is kind of a big business, and it would make sense to me to have somebody who knows how to run a company, how to run an organization. And then when the lockdowns happened, General Flynn and I started this thing called the Reawaken Tour. I thought it would be one event. Somehow it turned into 25 consecutive money-losing events, devouring 4 years of time. And through the tour, we met some of the best people, and we met some of the worst people. And oftentimes at the same event, we met Antifa in Oregon, and we also got a chance to be backstage meeting great people such as Kash Patel, Eric Trump, Laura Trump, Don Jr. It was an absolute wonderful way to meet the best and the worst. And I think many of us figured out that Donald J. Trump best represents our core American values, and it was a candidate that we wanted to see back in office to be our 47th president of these United States. So before I introduce our next presenter, I have a video that I think correctly sort of encapsulates what Donald J. Trump, as president of these United States, has meant for our country and what he means for our country moving forward. And so, Sean, hit it.
What truly matters is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government while the people have borne the cost. The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of our country. That all changes starting right here and right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand to your feet and greet my good friend and now yours, Eric Trump! One more time, Anaheim, let's hear it for Eric Trump! He's taller than you think, folks. How are you, sir?
California, it's so good to be here, guys. It's so nice to have conservatives in California. There's a lot more of us than we think, so.
Now, folks, you guys can grab a seat. What we're going to do is we're going to do a Q&A format. And for those of you that don't know, Eric Trump probably woke up before most of us today. And that's how I think Eric and I first connected, was to-do lists and calendars and managing people. So I'll start with this, Eric. How big is the Trump organization, and what exactly do you do at the Trump organization?
Well, by the way, I woke up early this morning because I'm on Eastern time, so I was in the gym at I think 5:15 this morning. But listen, the Trump Organization has become so many things over the years. We're the greatest hospitality company, I believe, in the world. We started as kind of a cool story. My great-grandfather started in hospitality when you had the gold rush. He went up to Canada and up to Alaska. He wanted to beat all the guys in the gold rush, saying, hey, I know everybody's going to be panning for gold, but I want to get up there and I want to offer the hospitality to them. I want to do the hotel rooms. I want to do the bar. I want to do the pub. And so he got up there ahead of everybody in the gold rush and kind of started the hospitality, actually in Whitehorse of all places. And then he went over to Alaska and a couple other places. And my grandfather decided to get into residential real estate. And it's when kind of the Model T was coming out. Henry Ford came out with a car. And he started building single garages attached to people's homes. The concept of a garage didn't exist until then, until really Model T. And so he realized, hey, I'm a really good builder. I'm gonna, build garages. And he became better and better, and he started building walk-ups, and he ended up getting about 26,000 units in Brooklyn and Queens and in New York. And then my father came along, and he goes, I no longer want to do the walk-ups. I want to build the greatest buildings anywhere in the city. I want to control New York City, and I want to do it in Atlantic City. I want to get into gaming. And so, when my grandfather believed in kind of bricks and mortar and efficiency, perfect layout, low ceilings, small bathrooms, but just efficient buildings, my father did the exact opposite. He wanted the tallest ceiling heights. He wanted the 6 fixture bathrooms. He wanted the 2 bidets in the bathroom and the double sinks and the makeup vanities and again the high ceiling heights and the big bedrooms and floor to ceiling glass, all imported from Germany, the best glass and everything else. These fancy curtain wall systems. And then we kind of came into the business, and that's really when we started getting going in golf. We realized we're really good in hospitality, so we wanted to take residential real estate and we wanted to expand it to hotels, to golf properties, and we wanted to take it internationally. And so that's kind of the 4th generation of real estate. And so now we have properties pretty much on every continent. We have about 26 jobs. I have about 26 jobs around the world right now. We have 7 in the Middle East. We have 9 in India. We're 2 projects in Vietnam, a bunch in Europe that we're building, projects all over the U.S. And some of the greatest hotels, some of the greatest golf properties, retail, commercial buildings, and that's what I do every single day. And more recently, very big into crypto, as you guys have probably heard me talk about. So that all came out of politics and getting debanked. And we fell in love with digital assets, right? To try to take out the big banks because the big banks tried to take us out. And so, love Bitcoin. Have a great company called American Bitcoin that I work on every single day, and having a lot of fun, guys.
Now, so it could be said that your grandfather invented the Garage Mahal.
I like that name, Garage Mahal.
The Garage Mahal, it could be said. Now, your father, it could be said, is the inventor of the weave. Yeah. Now, the weave. Now, some of you have businesses and you want to grow them, and we have to learn how to communicate and manage people, right? To build an organization, you have to be organized, and you have to manage people. You are a phenomenal communicator, and I know this because the first time I met you at one of your properties, he knew the waitress's name, she knew his name. The valet team member knew his name, he knew his name. Everybody knows him, he knows everybody, and there was a rapport there. And I'm like, although you are the boss, there's a rapport. Could you talk about communication, the importance of it, and maybe if you could weave in the weave?
Oh, God. Well, the weave, so my father invented the weave, right? So it's, you start off on a subject and you go completely off course, and then you circle back. And by the way, it takes great brilliance to do. You circle back, and everything has to flow perfectly through this train of thought, right? And he's done a great job. And I think, frankly, it's why he won all the debates, right? He was always able to weave. He did a great job with them. But, as a company, guys, it's funny you say that, we are a massive company. We've got tens of thousands of employees around the world. But at the end of the day, we run like the biggest mom and pop. If you lose touch with your people, congratulations, you're out of business. I never wanted to be a Marriott. No disrespect, great company. I never wanted to be a Hilton. I want to know the general manager. I want to know the controller. I want to know the people at the front desk. I want to know every single one of our employees. And if you walk into any one of our properties anywhere around the world, I challenge you to ask anybody that you see whether or not they know me or feel like they really, really know me, right? And I look down at the screen right here. I can tell you every single manager at every single property there. In fact, I just left the one that has golf on it. That's Trump LA right here. I'm sure many of you have been there before. But people in our company aren't numbers. They're not numbers. They're human beings. I know their pets. I know their kids. I know their husbands. I know their wives. You know, we've been there for them when their houses have burned down, and I've given the speeches at their wedding. I've married more employees than you can possibly imagine. And, you know, I've been at their funerals, unfortunately, and I've given those eulogies. And I've also been there, you know, at their kids', you know, bar mitzvahs and their christenings. You know, we are people that are incredibly, incredibly kind of accessible. And, you know, it's a company of love. These are family members to us. That's how we treat them. And it's why I always say, if you're in the Trump organization for a year, you're with us for life. I mean, the average employee, you know, 20, 30 years, they never leave, and it's because we treat them like family. They are family. You know, we're the first people to laugh. We work really, really hard, and we're really serious about what we do. At the same time, we have the greatest time, and we're happy to be inappropriate, but, you know, we're happy to have a good time, and that's what life's all about. And so we've really created a great community. And every single day I hear some BS company, oh, yes, we've got wonderful corporate culture. And then I'll go up to somebody, how long have you been with the company? Oh, I joined 3 months ago. I go, you know, clearly your corporate culture isn't that great, because, you know, every person I've met has been at this company for sub a year. You know, we really believe in tenure. We believe in incredible people. We believe in treating them great, compensating them well, having an unbelievable work environment, and not putting up with kind of the HR nonsense that you see in so many other companies. We never had the DEI nonsense, and we never had, you know, so many of the jokes that kind of went through corporate America. And I can tell you our teams are so thankful for that.
Now, Eric, for our anniversary, for my wife and I, for our anniversary, Eric sent my wife and I to Scotland. So we went to Turnberry and we stayed there, and it was an unbelievable experience. And what I found is that the people in Scotland, yet again, they know your name, you know who they are. There was a guy named Jim at the Turnberry, and it was like he was your best friend, but there is a large team of people working there. And they were all bragging about how you completely stripped that thing down to the, you know, basically you took the property, this beautiful property, and you totally renovated this thing, made it world class. And you have this high expectation, but yet it doesn't seem like there's an organization filled with confrontation. And I think that's hard for some people when they're running a company. It's how do you get a guy like Jim in Scotland to put on, I mean, I'm not kidding, it was a 20-minute infomercial for you. He was bragging on you and the work you did, and he said you should have seen it before the Trumps bought it. You should have seen the renovation. And he's so excited about the energy and the culture, but yet there doesn't seem like your day is filled with endless confrontation. How do you set a high expectation? How do you do it?
In fact, zero confrontation. So Jim is kind of like attaché / a doorman at Turnberry. He wears a kilt, thick Scottish accent. Everybody knows him, everybody loves him, but you know, Jim is a guy who had been lied to for 20 years. He's been at that property for a very long time. This is, you know, Turnberry in Scotland. Let's see, keep going down. You're actually on the hotels. It's probably not going to appear on here. You need to go to the hotel page. Keep going down. It might be at the bottom. But anyway,
I'll find it for you, Eric. Keep going. I'll find it for you.
Yeah. Find Turnberry. Spectacular hotel. But Jim had been lied to. So the company that owned Turnberry before we came in, actually two before, was a Japanese company. And guess what? They never went to Turnberry. They invested in Turnberry, and they never went. They sent one of their kind of minions over there. He didn't care about it. You know, he'd show up once every 2 years. He'd walk around, have a fancy meal, and then leave. And then the next company that came in and bought it was Leisure Corp. Leisure Corp was based in the Middle East. And again, they couldn't tell the difference between a sand trap and a bunker. They didn't give a damn about the hotel. They didn't give a damn about their employees. In fact, the general manager used to joke that I was at the hotel more times before we bought it, in kind of the due diligence period, than the owners had been at the property in the last 15 years, right? And so Jim was a guy who was lied to over and over and over. They were promised things, right? And none of it ever came through. It was just, and then all of a sudden I show up, right? And I say, we're gonna turn this into the greatest hotel in Scotland, and we turned it into the greatest hotel in Scotland. We're gonna replace every window. We're gonna redo every single room. We're gonna bring this property back to its original grandeur. And then guess what? Windows start coming out of a building, you know, a sheetrock gets stripped off of the walls, every door fixture, every door, right? And walking through that hotel with impeccable standards. And then you know what they start seeing? They start seeing rates go up. And as rates go up, tips start going up, right? And as rates start going up and as tips going up and as your hospitality gets better and better, you know, occupancy in that hotel starts going up. And all of a sudden their life starts becoming better. And the hotel does better and better and better, which means they're getting paid more. They're getting paid more not only in terms of salary, but in terms of tips. And then every time I walk into that hotel, you know, I know Jim, and I know Jim's family, and we laugh about something, right? And all of a sudden there's a bond, and I never let the guy down. We never let him down. He became a member of our family, but everything that we said that we were going to do, we did. When everybody else had lied to Jim over the years about the great plans that they were gonna have, and then they stopped showing up. And so for us guys, it was always about showing up. I mean, I can tell you every single mechanical room in that building. I can tell you every spot in every attic, in every basement. I can give you every bunker on that golf course, right? I designed them, I built them. And people see that passion, and you can't fake passion in life. You either have passion or you don't. And if you don't love what you do, get the hell out of that industry. Go find something you love, because you can't fake it. But these are assets that you can't show up at
Put it on the
once every
screen.
12 years. And that's the problem that you have with the Hiltons. That's the problems you have with the Marriotts. If you're the CEO of Marriott, what do? You can't get to 34,000 hotels. You can't know 34,000 general managers and 34,000 controllers. You lose touch. And that's why, as a hospitality company, I never wanted to be one of them. I want to focus on the greatest projects anywhere in the world, and I wanted to focus on our teams and our people. And that's why I think we do the hotel world better than anybody. And I think Clay will attest. He stayed in that lighthouse right there. Good. Zoom up a little bit. I put Clay and his wife in that lighthouse, and would you say that's rather beautiful?
Well, I'll tell you, my wife was blown away. And it was a great way to spend the anniversary. The Reawaken Tour was like a money-losing machine. And so we found a way to lose money, lawsuits, the whole thing. And when Eric said, hey, for your anniversary, you guys should go to Turnberry. Well, first off, I don't really know what that means, I don't know where Turnberry is. I don't know. I know they talk that way. So I was practicing my Scottish, accent. So I wanted to say, hello, Jim. Good to see you, And so I'm looking it up. My wife's like, we're going to stay in that lighthouse. And that's the famous burial grounds of the guy who liberated Scotland. He was buried.
King Robert the Bruce, who has anybody seen?
Robert the Bruce.
Has anybody seen Braveheart? All right, right there. So right where that lighthouse is, see that mounding in front of the lighthouse was actually the castle walls for King Robert the Bruce. And so obviously that lighthouse was there. You know what's really cool about that lighthouse? I'm not sure if I ever told you this. Robert Louis Stevenson was the biggest lighthouse designer in the UK, right in the world at the time. Robert Louis Stevenson Jr. was the author that wrote Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Pirates of the Caribbean, everything, and he wrote a lot of the literary works, his literary works, in that lighthouse that Clay Clark was staying in. But it's a super, super cool project. But we are very, very connected with our projects, and so oftentimes I feel bad saying this, and not to disparage them at all. They're amazing, great people, great careers. But so often times people think I'm Paris Hilton as it pertains to our hotel company, right? I'm the exact opposite. I can tell you every single mechanical room, every light fixture, every person, every room. I design those rooms. We're so hands-on in our business, and it's critical if you want to be good at what you do.
Now, again, I want to make sure I have a big old list of things I want to get into, because I'm trying to answer the questions that oftentimes get on the whiteboard. I'm trying to have Eric answer those because it's such universal principles I've seen you live. This next thing is energy.
Yeah.
Energy. This property, again, Turnberry, folks, you got to look it up. It's incredible. The energy there is next level. You go to Trump Doral, the energy is next level. As an example, something happened where my wife somehow got locked out of our room at Doral. I think we locked ourselves out, or the door didn't work, or something happened. And the property manager, I think Mikkel, he found out there was a problem, and then brought one of those genies over that's the lift. And he brought the genie lift and somehow got into the room and left us with chocolate golf balls and a decorative pear and a thank you note and all this. And it was fast, and it was energy, and it was like you could feel the energy. And I just want to get your thoughts on that. The energy, how important is it for everybody here to bring great energy?
Well, where do you think the energy came from? Certainly didn't come from Sleepy Joe Biden, right, or Jeb Bush. I don't know, guys. It's like you either have energy or you don't, right? You either absolutely freaking love what you do or you don't. You either work 7 days a week or you don't, right? The one thing we've never lacked in our genetics was energy. We've always gone 7 days a week. We've always gone 24 hours a day in absolutely everything we do. We've never been a big sleep family. And I think a lot of that comes out of, listen, I think a little bit of that's genetics. And then I think a lot of that's also passion, right? If you hate something, you're not going to be energized about it. You're not going to love it. By the way, there's certain things that I don't love, right? I'm in real estate, and I love building. I love concrete. I love putting up those ballrooms. I built every inch of that building. That's Doral right there in Miami. And I love construction. Do I love commercial leasing? No, it's pretty monotonous, right? It's kind of the same form contract every single time. It's kind of plug and play in terms of terms. It's not the most dynamic thing. It's not the most exciting. Now, there are people who absolutely love commercial leasing. That's what does it for them. And they wake up every single morning, they want to get a lease executed, and that's their goal. I think you're better at things that you're really, really into, that you're really, really passionate about. And so I think in everybody's respective career, it's like gravitate toward the things that you're passionate about. And if you're a manager or if you're an executive of a company, fill those spots that you need to fill. Not everything's gonna be passionate to you, but fill them with people who absolutely adore whatever that skill set is, and you're gonna have a great team around you. And we've always done that. And the one thing that Clay will tell you about the company, and I think you've seen this kind of time and time again, we're not the company that goes out and hires Ivy League people. It's just, we don't do it. We always hire from within, and we take a great person, and we build up that person, we build up their confidence, and you see a talent in that person, and you give them an opportunity, and they will succeed every single time. Versus going and trying to find that Ivy League educated person. Listen, I went to one of the best schools in the country. This is almost knocking me. But they fail the vast majority of the time. We've really been good at going in and finding somebody who worked hard, that was street smart, that commanded respect, that a team loved. Yeah, and elevated them. We have a building in Las Vegas. You can bring it up on the screen. We have a general manager named Brian Boudreau. Brian used to literally be a driver for us when we were kids. Right, my father, for us. And Brian, I don't think he graduated high school, right? He definitely didn't go to college. And one day we were building a building, Trump Las Vegas. It's the tallest building on the Strip. It's 1,282 rooms in Las Vegas. We needed somebody to bring the architects out to the project. We bought the piece of land, and Brian goes, I'll bring them out. So Brian takes a trip out to Las Vegas, shows them the piece of land, gets them engaged. A couple weeks later, we need to go get, a construction company. And so guess what? Brian raises his hand. I'll bring them out. He didn't know anything about construction. He had never worked in construction. Sure enough, he's touring construction guys, right? All of a sudden, bankers need to go out there because we're getting financing for the building. I'll bring the bankers out. Sure enough, Brian ended up running construction on that building, brought the building in ahead of schedule, under budget. This was a guy who was a driver in our company, right? And I'll never forget, we hired a guy from the Four Seasons. Not to disparage Four Seasons, a great company. And the guy, he was 6 months in, and it's like, this isn't working. The guy's walking around with the pockets square. It's just, he wasn't our type of person. And we knew we had to get rid of him. We knew we had to make a change. And so guess who had his hand up? Brian. He goes, listen, I know nothing about hospitality. I know nothing about running a hotel, but I'll figure it out. And Brian's running, I opened that building in March of 2008, and Brian is still the general manager today. It's the tallest building on the Las Vegas Strip. And the lesson to all of this is always have your hand up. Always have your hand up. And honestly, give the opportunity to the people who deserve it. Not to some resume. And honestly, it's even worse today than ever. This is the bop and weave. Because of AI, right? You can have the least qualified person in the entire world make themselves sound like Albert Einstein based on AI. It's all BS, right? It means nothing. Always pick the person who's proven themselves time and time again. And by the way, they'll never forget that you gave them that opportunity because no one else in the world would have given them that opportunity. And it's been one of the greatest keys to our success as a company.
Now, I want to pull this up just to let you know what Eric is saying is grounded not only in his experience, but there's just a lot of hard facts here. Sean, pull it up. According to Inc. magazine, 85% of candidates pre-AI made up their resumes. Pull it up real quick. According to Inc. magazine, 85% of candidates were just making things up on their resume before AI. I'm having people now come to their interviews with their AI assistant in their ear, and they're trying to being coached what to say. I'm not making it up. Resumes are bogus, so there's epic amounts of jackassery swirling around in the hiring systems of America. We'll walk you through more of that, but as far as for just kind of pacing ourselves and so you know what we're gonna get into here, I wanted to ask Eric about business, and I also want to ask Eric about family, and I also want to ask Eric about being under siege, and I'll bring up Pastor Phil to talk about that in a moment as well. But business, we talked about that. Let's get into family. Your dad is the president of the United States. Your mom, I had a chance to work with you on your book and editing that thing and reading it. And your mom sounded like the real disciplinarian. What was it like in the Trump house, age 12, 13? Was it competitive? What was happening in the Trump house, age 12?
Oh, my mom was an absolute killer. She was the absolute killer. I mean, my father didn't need to be the killer when it came to us because she was from communist Czechoslovakia. And honestly, she loved big nails, right? She's a really elegant woman, but a phenomenal athlete, like almost Olympic quality skier, skied for the Czech national team, tough as hell. And if I got this much out of line, if Don got this much out of line, you had these big fake nails in your neck. And my mom had this weird thing. Does anybody have parents that wore their ring, or does anybody in here ever wear their wedding ring inverted? Females? you ever do that? For some reason, she'd always wear her ring inverted. It was just like casually. And so what she'd do is she'd grab you. You didn't eat the food that was on your table. You didn't say please. You didn't say thank you. You didn't open doors. You'd get these 2 nails in the neck, and then she would bop you. But when she bopped you this way, you just get cut on one side with a ring. And then when she bopped you the opposite way, it was just like bruised on this side of the face, right? And she was a killer. And by the way, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to us. I'm not condoning it wasn't child abuse, but sometimes it felt at that age like it was close. She was cool as hell. I mean, she was just a tough cookie, and love her very much. But no, she was a big part of who we are. She was a big part of the work ethic, and my father was always greatest father of the world. He started the day every single day. No drinking, no drugs, no smoking, and you better get good grades. And in the early 90s, there was one other aspect of that, which was never trust anybody. I look back, I'm like, man, that was pretty dark. Like, that was pretty dark advice to give a 7-year-old, but first of all, I was saying, like, Dad, what's drinking? You're thinking of like drinking as in like apple juice, right? No drinking, no drugs, no smoking. You better get good grades and never trust anybody. I mean, this is when every bank was trying to, take him down and, trying to put him out of business and everything else, and he beat all of them. But as we started living through this political journey, and certainly the journey I write about in Under Siege, I sit there and say, man, that was pretty good wisdom. I didn't understand it at the time, but I think looking back, now I understand exactly what he meant. But phenomenal father, a guy who put us to work at a very young age. We were on construction sites when we were 11, doing conduit, doing masonry, plumbing, HVAC, electrical. It's something that I love. It's something that, I'm still incredibly handy with my hands. But he just didn't believe in putting a kid in an ivory tower office, to kind of direct contractors to build buildings, not knowing a damn thing about building themselves. And so we were on those construction sites. We had sledgehammers in our hands. We were taking down walls, and that was expected. And it really did a couple things for us. First of all, at the end of the day, you were so damn tired. You weren't going to go, you weren't going to go out to bars. You weren't going to indulge in terrible hobbies and practices and other things. Second of all, you developed an understanding and appreciation for the value of money, right? So, if you're making $4 an hour, I mean, we were making minimum wage. Don't think we were making $30 an hour. We were making literally, $3-4 an hour. You're not going to spend that $3-4 an hour, buying a handle of vodka, because you actually have appreciation. Third of all, it gave you great appreciation for the contractors and the people who actually build things and make things and bring things to life, and how hard those jobs are. And then fourth, it teaches you a skill set. And so he never wanted us to have idle time. And I hope to God, kids are the hardest thing in the world, but I hope to God we can emulate that model, because it was the best thing that ever happened to us.
Now, Eric, I want to ask you about this. This is something. We were at the Reawaken tour in Missouri, Branson, Missouri. And we were there, and how many of you know that David was a man after God's own heart? And not perfect, but but David was a man after God's own heart. And when I look for with people, just so you know, if I'm hiring people or meeting people, I try to size people up and figure out what they're all about. And we'd done enough events together, and I knew that if Eric said he was going to come to an event, he would come to it, no matter what the threats were. Antifa getting crazy, the death threats, all that. Eric would be there. There was a funeral that Eric had to get to, so he drove to one of our events. So Eric was always there. So I knew his yes was his yes and his no was his no. But in Missouri, he got me. That's where he got me. So Eric had wrapped up his speech, and no one was watching, but there was some young kids, and Eric was shaking hands, and the security people were like, okay, you got to go, sir. And Eric was like, well, let me shake this kid's hand, and then this kid's hand, and then another kid, and he kept doing that, and I'm like, okay, no one knows he's doing this, but Eric's holding up the line because he's shaking all the hands. You probably shook thousands of hands at that Missouri. I mean, seriously, it was thousands of hands in Branson, Missouri. And I watched Eric do that, and I've noticed that the way your father raised you, I know because of security, you have to be up here and we have to be down here and this whole thing, but you resonate, you connect with mainstream people. And I can't celebrate that enough, because I've done so much these political events where there are certain people that think they should be behind a velvet rope and they shouldn't. And there's a lot of people that, think that they're too good for the average contractor, the average stonemason, the average auto mechanic. And that's why I love having you come to our events, because you have an appreciation. Could you talk about that? You're raised around Michael Jackson, Mike Tyson, hanging out at your dad's property. You're at casinos, helicopters, but yet you still relate to the average person. You're still shaking hands with the average kid in Missouri. Can you just walk us through how you process this life where you're household name, but you also are Main Street? How do you do it?
By the way, Clay's almost killed us a couple times. Just as to the beginning of Clay's story, he's talking about Antifa. So we go do a speech in Oregon, and I'll get back to the actual question. And by the way, you've never seen a crowd like this. I'm telling you, no one in Oregon has seen a conservative in like 87 years. And so every person who was right of center in Oregon showed up to this event. And Clay calls me the day before. He's like, all the speakers are bailing. I go, why are they bailing? He's like, because Antifa wants to literally like raid us, while we're in this tent. And I go, Clay, I'm coming. I told you I was coming. I'm coming. And they're finding these like little stars under people's tires, the ones that deflate the tires and everything else. And I mean, it's absolutely crazy out there. This was in like the summer of love, right? I.e. the riots, the mostly peaceful, as we call it, CNN riots. Remember the mostly peaceful riot where the cars and the buildings are on fire right behind. And I'll never forget, we gave the speech. There was like 3,000 people. We had the greatest reception. And I had like an hour and a half before my flight. And there was a German place. It was like a weird place across the street. And they had the best schnitzel. And so we go in there, and I'm eating schnitzel, and there was a guy who was with us that Clay used to hire for security. He's like, sir, we need to get out of here. Antifa's literally they're going to march on this restaurant because they know you're here. I go, I'm not leaving my schnitzel. I'm finishing my freaking schnitzel. Like I'm not leaving my schnitzel. Like I don't care if it's Antifa. I don't care if we all have to fight our way out of this place. Like I'll try and take 2 of the guys out. You try and take a couple of the guys out, but like we're finishing our schnitzel. But no, listen, if we as a family say we're going to do something, we do it, and Clay has seen that kind of firsthand. But in terms of relating to I always saw my father as interesting. He never cared what the CEO of an electrical company thought. What he would do is he'd go up to the guy who was installing an outlet in a hotel room, and he'd ask him, hey man, what do you think? Are we on schedule? No, sir, we're not on schedule. We're 3 weeks behind. We don't have enough manpower on this job. We're waiting for supplies. It's a constant disaster. He would always listen to that guy, right? Of course, the CEO of that company is going to tell him, yes, sir, we are on schedule. Everything's wonderful, sir. We're going to have it done for you in time. They're motivated to lie. They're motivated to be dishonest, right? They're motivated to, for their own pocketbooks. He was always one of these guys who would go to the person he would do the same thing on the campaign trail. Forget about the campaign managers. He'd go grab the staffer in Iowa. Hey, how are we doing? What are you seeing out there? Be honest with me. Are we winning this thing? How's our ground game? How's this? And they were always honest with him. It was kind of remarkable. And by the way, so many of the people that were honest with him were actually the people who climbed up the organization and were kind of then the leaders of the company. And, we believed in that. We didn't believe in the socialite thing. We believed in kind of the ordinary man and woman type thing. Like they're the people who are friends. The vast majority of my best friends are law enforcement. They're contractors. They're just the heart and soul of America, and we're very, very good. So I always call my father the blue collar billionaire, right? I mean, he would rub shoulders with socialite because that was kind of the job, right? But he didn't really want to be with those people. He could act like he did, right? But he didn't really want to be with those people. He wanted to be with the people who were actually able, to create. And so, it's honestly one of the reasons I think he won the presidency of the United States. It's one of the reasons that he kind of won over hearts and minds on The Apprentice. And it was that willingness to commit. And it was also, and I said this, I was with a couple people, I was with Tammy and Phil in a group at their house. And by the way, 2 of the most amazing people you'll ever meet. And we were talking a little bit about this subject, and he's always been remarkable in terms of that connection. And you'd see it in politics. Like, I think I gave the example of all the phonies during 2016 that would show up at the Iowa State Fair, and they're wearing Carhartts that had never been worn before. Like the stickers are still on them, and they're wearing a pair of work boots that had never been used before. Like, they're hobbling around because they have blisters because those boots had never been put on before, and they ride up in a Harley Davidson. They don't have their motorcycle license. They've never ridden a Harley before. They barely know what the shift pattern is on a motorcycle. And, they're trying to ride into the Iowa State Fair as if they're, relatable. And what my father does, he puts on a suit, puts on a red tie, flies in his New York helicopter into the middle of the Iowa State Fair and starts giving kids rides around the fair in the helicopter. And he just knew who he was, and he just embraced it. He embraced it. He didn't try and be a phony, while they were all being phonies, every single one of them. And by the way, American can read through a phony. We can all read through phonies. And he was just himself. And he was honest, he was direct. Everybody probably saw that in this press conference yesterday. I'm not sure, did anybody see that press conference yesterday? pretty epic. That was pretty. I'd call that somewhat direct, to say the least. And so he was always, that's how he became relatable to, everyday Americans. And I think that's ultimately what won him, the presidency. But I think it's a trait that we all have. We'd much rather deal with that contractor. We'd much rather deal with that electrician than, that socialite that's never created a damn thing in their life, but runs around with a lot of ego and, and that proverbial golden spoon. And so.
Now, I want to talk about growing businesses specifically. That's why we're here, and I want to get into that for a second. One thing that you do really well is you focus on what you can control. I've seen you do that. You're really into to-do lists and calendars and measuring your schedule and taking advantage of really using every day as a day that every day is a gift that God's given you, and then what you do with it is a gift to God. I've watched you do that. You manage your time. You're very fastidious. And I think for people who are politically informed, I think a lot of people are here, it's easy to, spend your day going, okay, today what I covered is I got a chance to watch another podcast that exposed the corruption of this and that, and I went down this rabbit trail and that rabbit trail. And then what we need to do is and we're dealing with geopolitical things, and that's important. We get the right to vote, and we need to go vote. But then we need to actually do something with our day and our life on a practical level. And that's why I connected with you so much on the Reawaken tour is you are going, hey, I'm going to be going over to this golf course to manage this, and then I'll come to the event. Hey, I'm going to be looking at the spreadsheets and the P&Ls tomorrow, Clay, and then I'm going to come to your event. Hey, I'm going to be meeting with my staff today. We're expanding, and then I'll come to your event. It was never a situation where you were detaching from running a business while trying to stop geopolitical issues. You had to do both. Can you talk about getting practical for a second for anybody here who's politically informed and you guys were perpetually under siege? How do we get practical? How do you get the most out of every day, Eric? How do you just get practical and tactical?
Well, first of all, we're early risers. I'm up every day at 5 o'clock, normally in the gym by 6. Sometimes earlier than that. I was in the gym at 5:30 this morning. So we've always been early risers. We're not people that sleep in, and we're not people that practically sleep a lot. I mean, if I get 4 hours of sleep a night, 4.5 hours of sleep a night, it's kind of a lot for me, right? I'm kind of like I'd say a 12 to 4:35-ish guy, right? So that's my usual sleep schedule. And there's a lot of people that sleep their lives away, and there's a lot of people that need more sleep to function. And I don't think you win any race sleeping, right? I mean, that seems pretty basic, but if you're lying in bed, there's probably somebody that's passing you in some aspect of life. And I think organization is the most important, the hardest part of anybody's life. There's so many things that come after all of us every single day. There's unexpected family, there's kids, there's relationships, there's husbands and wives, there's school commitments, there's big businesses. I mean, literally, as I'm sitting here, right before I came to the speech today, I was with our team at Trump LA, and we have a couple lawyers that work out here. So I'm talking about 2 lawsuits with them. I'm talking to our superintendent about moving a golf cart path 40 yards over to the right. I'm talking about building new tees, entire bunker renovation. Then we're going back to the lawsuits. I have a team in New York that launched a public company this morning, New American Ventures. We're doing a big SPAC. So they're literally at the New York Stock Exchange ringing the bell as I'm having this conversation. Then I'm coming over here to obviously be with my good friend Clay. And there's just millions of things that come at us every single day. Again, 26 projects under development around the world, our entire existing portfolio, 70, 80, properties, 500 plus entities, probably 1,000 bank accounts, trademarks, everything, lawsuits, everything that you deal with in business. And it's awfully hard, to stay 100% focused on every aspect of the business as much as you need to know all those aspects. And so what I try and do every day is I start with a to-do list. Like I'm a very, very to-do list oriented guy. And I'll give you like a little secret I'm not proud of. Rarely ever do you get through your to-do list. In fact, most of the time, I'd say the average, most of the time my to-do list at the end of the day is substantially longer than what it started out. And a lot of times, if you're having trouble with to-do lists, and it's like mandatory, a to-do list just make you faster and better at everything you do. You write it all down, then you prioritize the things that are most important, and you always take the most important things, you put them at the top, you accomplish them first, and you go down the list to the least important. And if the least important get forgotten about, well, so be it. It is what it is, right? And at least the important goals and milestones got conquered. But if you're ever having trouble with that, do the reverse, to-do list, which is instead of writing a list of all the things you need to do, write a list of all the things that you actually finished and accomplished. And at the end of the day, sometimes you go, wow, I had a big day. I got a lot done. Hey, there might be 100 items over here, but look at all these items that I wrote down, which are things that are 100% accomplished and I never need to think about again. And that's a big thing. So I normally have two sides of the to-do list, the actual list, and then oftentimes replicated on the other side, but it's the actual accomplishments of the day. And it's incredibly important is how I live my life.
Now, Phil, I'm going to bring you and Tammy up. Folks, this is Pastor Phil and Tammy Hotzenpiller. They are the host pastors of this place here. This is their church, Influence Church. Let's hear for Phil and Tammy Hotzenpiller. Yeah. Now, I met these guys. By the way, thank you for letting us invade. Thank you. I met these guys because all the churches, not all the churches, most of the churches shut down. And there was very few that stayed open. And these guys stayed open. That's how we met. And now Tammy, who's an entrepreneur and a pastor, she's helping your wife on her clothing line. And Pastor Phil writes books and preaches and teaches and has an online website called American Faith and many other endeavors. But I wanted to talk to you guys. I want to have a conversation about under siege. So we're going to ask you some questions about being under siege, okay? So Nehemiah in the Bible, right? He had to build a wall while fighting while building a wall. How do you, in your new book, you talk about it, Under Siege, how do you deal with someone saying horrible things about you online, being sued, being really sued, being sued again, being the most subpoenaed man in American history, still being sued. Your father just said something online that's going viral for good things. People are cheering for you when you walk in a restaurant. People are booing. People are cheering. I mean, you fly commercial. You choose to fly on normal airplanes when you come to these events. You fly commercial. How do you get on an airplane knowing that half the crowd hates you, half the crowd likes you, or 70% like you? Just how do you deal with being perpetually under siege?
By the way, more and more, I think about 80% of the crowd absolutely adores you. Does that make sense? And so, it's amazing. America is behind this country like never before. We have more patriotism in America right now than we have had in years. And by the way, in a church, it's so nice to see God back. It's so nice to see family back. And thank God we have it. Guys, we didn't have it. I mean, under Obama, you literally had the IRS going after every conservative organization, every church, trying to pull away the non-profit, stature of every single, religious organization that was not on their team. Faith was under assault. I mean, guys, how many times have we talked about this on your show? Faith was under assault in ways that we'd never seen before. Family dynamic was under assault. Kids were under assault. The schools were under assault. You had indoctrination. You had revisionist history that was being taught. I mean, I ended up leaving New York. I'll give you, this was like the straw that broke the camel's back. It wasn't just a Letitia James. It wasn't just a legal lawfare. One day I get a text message from the principal of my son's school at the time. This was my father went to Walter Reed when he had COVID during the first administration. Under no circumstance do you or your wife bring your kids to school tomorrow. Our faculty and parents are petrified of getting COVID from your family. And I'm sitting there saying, my father lives 230 miles away. Unless you can transmit COVID vis-a-vis the telephone, and I just tee off, right? But that was kind of like the last straw I had in New York. And guess who dropped the kid off at school the next day? Like I walked my son right up, and I got so fed up. It's here's the spectrum, here's the line. You have a little girl over here, and you've got a boy over here. I want you, Luke, to check where in the spectrum of sexuality you believe you are. And you're sitting there saying, we're not doing this. We're just, do me a favor, teach my kid how to read. Teach him math. He's got plenty of years to be confused, and there's this nonsense can come later, but it will not happen here. And we finally said we gotta get the hell out. We gotta get down to Florida, and so we left communism, and we went to a very free state. But we were under siege. Listen, I mean, it started the second we went down the escalator. Literally 12 minutes after my father's hand came off the Bible. In 2017, the Washington Post did a story. This is when the impeachment of Donald Trump begins. And I was the guy that got the call from the FBI. All right, Eric, I hear you have secret servers communicating with the Kremlin in the basement at Trump Tower. I go, excuse me? We didn't know what the Iowa caucuses were. We weren't smart enough to communicate with the Kremlin. We didn't know what a delegate was. We didn't know a damn thing about politics. And then after that, it was the dirty dossier saying my father, did unthinkable things with females, right? And guess who it was paid for? It was paid for by Hillary Clinton. Go figure. And that was impeachment number 1. And then it was Kavanaugh. And then it was impeachment number 2. And then they raided Mar-a-Lago. And then they banned us from Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and every other channel. They took away your free speech. They literally banned him from all social media. Then it was the gag orders. Then it was the 91 indictments. I got 112 subpoenas. I became the most subpoenaed person in American history, having never done a drug, having never, gotten a traffic ticket in my life. And then they took him off the ballot in Maine, and then they took him off the ballot in Colorado. Then they raided Mar-a-Lago. They went through Melania's room, her closet. They went through Barron's room. Then you had Jack Smith, and you had Letitia James, and you had Comey, and you had Alvin Bragg, and you had all these people that tried to throw him in jail, and then you had the mugshots. I mean, guys, I could go on for hours. I mean, 91 of our corporate employees had their tax returns leaked to the New York Times by the IRS. My father's tax returns, my tax returns, everybody's leaked to the New York Times and other papers vis-a-vis the IRS, right? I mean, they did everything they could. Then you had the sham judge in New York who's been overturned. Right? I mean, they wanted to see my father voiceless. They wanted to see my father, bankrupt. They wanted to see the company gone. They tried to take our name off of every single building in Manhattan. They tried to bankrupt our company. They didn't give a damn about our employees. They didn't care about the tens of thousands of people who did not want to be part of this political game. They just wanted to see us voiceless. They wanted to see us muted. They wanted to see us gagged. They wanted to see us destroyed. They wanted to see us off of that stage. It's really interesting. None of this happened until my father decided to run for president again. And that's what the siege was. And then when none of that worked, you know what? They tried to kill him in Butler. And then when that didn't work, guess what? They tried to kill him in Palm Beach at the golf course. And then they shot my good friend Charlie Kirk in the neck. We saw what happened there. A guy who I've been on this very stage with Charlie Kirk about 1,000 times, a dear, dear friend of ours. They wanted to erase the voice. And that was what Under Siege. And that is what Under Siege is about. And honestly, because we had God was watching down on this entire process. Make no mistake about it, because we would not be here. We would not be here. But we had God and we had the American people. We certainly didn't have the media. I mean, we had, the coverage of my father and our family was 98% negative. Think about that, 98% negative, and yet, we won the popular vote and we won every swing state. We won 11 counties, by the way, in California that had never been won by a conservative before. We won Miami-Dade, which hadn't been won by a conservative in almost 40 years. We won Miami-Dade by 11 points. And then I get to hear Kamala talk about, how it was the closest election in modern history. I go, I don't know. I think Al Gore would probably disagree with that. And Al would probably disagree with that, but no, that was Under Siege, guys, and that's what we had to fight through. And so, how did you do it? I don't know if we had a choice. Honestly, I don't know if we had a choice. It's like, like we either won, and I say this in the book. I'll never forget. My father got convicted in New York. It's all been overturned now, but we were in the car. We were going up the FDR Drive. I was sitting next to him, and he looks over. He goes, "I don't know how, but we're going to win this whole thing." And he meant the lawsuit, and he clearly meant the presidency. And I go, yeah, it's either 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue or you and I are both in jail for doing absolutely nothing wrong, because that's the forces to be. And the pendulum was significant. And we didn't have a choice. We either fought or they were going to take us out, as they have so many people in the past. And we weren't going to allow that to happen. And so I think you need to realize life. I think you need to kind of prioritize life as a little bit of a game. And I know that sounds cold, but it's, it's a game that sometimes isn't fun to play. It's not a nice game, but it's a game that oftentimes you have to win, right? And if you get caught up too much in the emotion of somebody's actions, it's just part of the game. They're doing this for this reason, and you know exactly what their motivation is behind that. And so you have to play the game, and you have to play the game in order to beat them. Again, it's not nice. It's oftentimes not fun, but it's a game. And if you get caught up, and if you get emotional, and you want to start crying, and you lose backbone, and you lose your kind of desire to fight, well, guess what? Then they win. They're going to run right over you. And so we always kind of compartmentalize all these wars, all these fights, the siege, the weaponization of politics, the dishonesty of the media. We always kind of framed it as just a game. It was another move in a game that we had to overcome. And we fought like hell, and we fought every single day to win that game. And thank God we did, because I'm pretty convinced we wouldn't have a country right now if we didn't.
So, Eric, the first time we met was 2 years ago in July, and we were meeting with Laura at the Trump Tower, and she said, "What are you guys doing on the July 4th? It was the 3rd, and I said, well, we're not doing anything. So, well, why don't you come up and enjoy fireworks with the Trumps? So here's where the story goes. So we're up there, and I see you both as real parents, and I was so just moved by it, There's Laura, probably frustrated chasing kids, but never showed it. And here's the question. So one of the things you do with your children every night is fill in that blank, pray. Tell us about that.
So we started this young, and by the way, my kids probably were choking me out that night. So I signed my son up for jiu-jitsu, and he's a big boy. He's gonna be big. He's gonna be bigger than me, and so now he loves choking me out. So I guarantee you, during the fireworks, he's trying to choke me out. But no, starting very young, we started a tradition with our kids that actually kind of got passed down to us. We did it there's 3 prayers that we say with our kids every night. We say the Lord's Prayer. I think everybody knows the Lord's Prayer. And then we do, then now I lay me down to sleep. I pray, Lord, my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, pray, Lord, my soul to keep. And then we do 4 corners. So my kids call it 4 corners, but there are 4 corners on my bed, 4 angels overhead, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. God bless this bed that I lie on. And we started this when our kids were practically 0. And it was amazing. Like it became their kind of, proverbial light switch. If, once we said prayers, they knew they were down for the night, right? There was no more getting out of bed. There was no more talking. There was no more laughing. The lights were off. It was bedtime, and it became kind of this, this kind of invisible wall, right? It's bedtime, maybe some wrestling, have some fun, prayers, lights are off, you're asleep until the next morning. And what it really did for our kids, aside from bringing spirituality into their life, which is nothing more important, it also really helped their vocabulary. I know that was like a little side effect. The Lord's Prayer isn't easy, and when you have a 1-year-old trying to get through it, it was great for their little voice, it was great for their vocabulary, but it was a great kind of disciplined aspect, of the night that brought faith into the family, and is something, and I did those same 3 prayers growing up every night before I went to bed, and I remember them. There are times that I can sit here right now and remember exact instances saying those prayers with the people, with my parents, with people in that room, with me, and so that's something that we tried to carry through with our kids. And more recently, we added, say the Pledge of Allegiance. So they always start with the Pledge of Allegiance. They start with their hand on their hearts. They say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then those 3 prayers. And then kind of as they've developed a little bit of kind of cognition, I always ask them a question at night. It's normally, what's one nice thing that somebody did for you tonight or today? What's the one nice thing that you did for somebody today? What's one thing that you're thankful for? And it's been kind of fun. It makes them think, and it makes them actually have some kind of recall. I picked the soda bottle off the floor, or, Dad wrestled with me, or, Dad brought me to the farm and we rode ATVs, and, something kind of unique comes out of their heads every time. And what's been really fun is, oftentimes you go over to, friends, holiday party, and oftentimes it's, let's say grace, and we often have Luke or Carolina do it. And they just impress people because it gives them this kind of confidence in their voice and to speak from the heart. And, it's single-handedly, I think, the best thing we ever did with our kids. But that's how we ended the night, every single night. And regardless of where in the world we are, with very few exception, if I'm not there in person, and I travel a lot, Laura calls me, and we do it on FaceTime, so I'm still the last face that they see before they go to bed. Or if I'm at home, I'll do prayers for them, and I'll call her on FaceTime, and she gets to see them. But, hopefully our kids remember that indefinitely, that virtually every night, the parents were both there, no matter where in the world they were, saying those 3 little prayers. And kind of, I truly hope that in Christianity and faith becomes ingrained in their soul, because we need a lot more of that in this country. So.
I just want to say this. First of all, shameless plug for Under Siege. If you don't have the book, make sure you get it. And would you do me a favor? Would you go on and do a social post? See, what happens is when we don't work together, then we don't see anything change. And we saw that with COVID when they tried to stop this church and we stayed open. And we have to get a voice, guys. I'm going to just be the little preacher to you right now, but we have to do something together. So if all of you would get the book, get a picture, post it, and let's make a difference. But I have the opportunity of working with Laura on the clothing line. Go out and get some LT wear. But I'll never forget the day that I've received a phone call from Clay Clark, and he said, "Hey, you do clothes, right?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You have clothing lines?" And I said, yeah. I said, "Well, Laura Trump would like to do a clothing line." And I'm like the president's daughter-in-law? Yeah, you might be receiving a phone call. 5 minutes later, Laura called me. And first of all, there was that shock and awe. And then there was the responsibility. See, every one of us have a responsibility in business. And it was an opportunity for me to work with Laura. And so first of all, I love your wife dearly. Your children, I kind of become a prayer warrior, just to be honest, for them every day. I pray for the 4 of you. But I want to ask you this. On the way over, I had 5 minutes with Eric, and I said, Eric, pour into me what I need to know to take this company to the next level. So what I like to say is smart people put smarter people around them. So make sure you're putting smart people around you. But I guess for me, the whole thing under siege, where do you see the church going? Because a lot of people here are people of faith. Because we're still under siege. You know, it's from the enemy. We know that. But from your perspective, I know how I see it. From your perspective, what can we do different? Because we are under siege, especially in California. We know that. I'd love to hear from you on that.
So I'm going to say something that's a little bit controversial. And by the way, with Tammy, if we were to do a vote who Tammy's favorite Trump is, it's definitely Laura, which really breaks my heart. So very disappointed in you, Tammy. Who? Barron. No, Tammy definitely likes me more than Barron, I think. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Hey, you've never met Barron, have you? Have you? Oh, at the inauguration, of course. Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe it's Laura, then Barron, then me. That could be possible. You know, I think in terms of faith, I do think we have a revival in this country. I think you had real problems under Obama where you had the weaponization of the IRS, you had the tax status, and you had pastors that were just petrified to say anything, to preach, to do anything. You had pastors that were petrified because of kind of the war on religion. Recently, you've had a different thing. You've kind of what I call the Charlie Kirk effect, where churches are full because of what they tried to do. They turned somebody into a martyr. Evil, pure evil. The very people that call us fascist, dress up in all black, grab a sniper rifle, sit on the roof of a college campus and shoot over the heads of college kids that are engaged in political free speech and debate, and they call us fascists. It's really interesting. And, I think a lot of this evilness is showing its way through, and I think you've got this pendulum that's swinging back from the corrupt to the pure. And I really hope that continues. I think Charlie was a big aspect of that. I think my father was a big aspect of that. I think kind of the American First policies are really, a big aspect of that. Where I think I need to be critical of organized religion, I hate to say this has nothing to do with God, this has nothing to do with the Bible, but I do think that there were a lot of pastors who were weak-kneed in times when we needed them to be strong. And I think there were a lot of people who weren't pastors who were strong. And when I see these two, Phil and Tammy, they were the only people. They were one of the few people in California that kept their churches opened. In a time when Gavin Newsom was telling everybody to shut down the church. And they're saying, wait a second. You've got pot stores that are open. You've got alcohol stores that are open. But yet you can't keep a church open. You can't keep a house of worship open. I think not. Try and shut me down. I dare you. Arrest me. Try and shut me down. And that's not easy. That's not easy. The amount of social pressure, that fell on these guys wasn't easy, but they didn't buckle, right? And they didn't cower and they didn't break. And guys, I can tell you, a lot of pastors broke, and kind of shame on them for doing it. And so I think if there's one thing that I would hope and pray for, it's that we all find our respective backbones. We would not be where we are as a company right now, or country right now, if we would have broken. The easiest deal that I could have ever made in my life was getting my father out of all the mess that they tried to put him in, all the weaponization, the indictments. I could have gone behind the scenes to each and every one of them and said, listen, he's going to back out of this race. He's going to retreat peacefully. He's going to throw in the towel. He'll do so to save face, but he's going to back out of this and you drop everything. They would have shook on that deal like that. It would have been the easiest deal. And honestly, 91 indictments later, he's still out there every single day in the halls of the courthouses swinging. And guys, our religious leaders better be the same way, and they haven't been. And they haven't been. And this isn't just in America, this is around the world. And there's certain sects of them that have been unrelenting. But people need to stand up, and people need to fight, and people need to, to stick to their guns, and people need to, not cower and we just haven't had enough. And so that's what I pray for within the faith-based community.
Now, Eric, we have time for about three more rapid-fire questions. So I'll ask a question, and Phil and Tammy, then we're going to do a group photo. We're going to do a group photo. So if you want to get in the photo, psychologically, physically prepare yourself to be within the photo range. Andrew, grab the camera, grab the lens. Jackie, grab Andrew. Everybody grab Andrew. If you're Andrew, grab yourself. Get ready for the photo. We'll be doing that. But I have a question for you. Sean, will you pull up the photo real quick here? The Clark kids on the screen here. Here you go, Eric. Right here on the screen in front of us. There we go. Sorry, Eric, the other way. We're going this way. Right here. There we go. Yeah. So this is our family. And Eric has lowered his standards, and he's invited the Clark kids to visit Mar-a-Lago here in February. So the kids are excited. But I've got 4 daughters. You know, so it's my daughter to the right, Angelina, then my son, Aubrey, then you got Havana. And then we're hanging out with Dr. Navarro. He's a good buddy of mine. And that's Scarlett and Leia, and then my wife. And they're asking me, Dad, what should we wear? What should we wear? With their women, you know, a lot of estrogen. I'm going, I don't know. But I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to take at least 10 minutes of this event and ask Eric. Because Eric, what's allowed to wear? What can the girls wear? What is acceptable at Mar-a-Lago? It's a club. You've lowered your standards for a couple days to allow me to sneak in. My great family, they'll be there. What should they wear? What can the girls not wear, Eric?
But by the way, I always say how Clay landed his wife is nothing short of exceptional to me. It's unbelievable. It's like, but I've actually never seen Clay. You know, he's actually got a more restricted dress code than even Donald Trump, because at least Donald Trump will get into golf clothing. Does that make sense? It's either a suit or golf clothing. I've actually never seen Clay Clark out of a suit and sneakers, right? Like that's like the Clay Clark wardrobe. And so people make fun of me for having a wardrobe because it's either a suit or like shorts and a polo. But Clay Clark is always in a suit. So Clay, you just wear your suit. We will embrace you for the good friend that you are. Your wife and daughters have tremendous class.
Okay.
And so I'm not worried about them, but you are going to fit in beautifully, and you're going to have the time of your life.
Now, Scarlett, this one here, the one in the back, the tall one there next to Dr. Navarro, she's really concerned about what to wear. Anything in particular she can't wear, you know?
Nothing.
Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay, so that's good.
Yeah,
now we've got
maybe that's one thing that she can't wear is nothing. But yeah, but
we're a lot of things.
You've got incredibly great kids, and they're beautiful, and I have no doubt that they're gonna nail this one.
Okay, I've asked. Okay, so I'm gonna pass the mic over here to Tammy.
Oh gosh, I get another question. All right, here. Out of all the line of the LT brand, which we have a No Days Off, we have American Made. I mean, your wife is so stinking sexy, and if you don't follow Laura Trump online, you've got to. Which is your favorite piece we've created?
Yeah, well, the No Days Off thing is pretty amazing, to say the least, because that's literally like her life. It's probably all of our lives, but it's really, really her life, right? This is somebody who'll wake up, if she's traveling at 6 o'clock to go somewhere for Fox, she'll get to the gym at 3:45 a.m. I mean, she's just one of these people, like she doesn't miss a workout, you know, and she'll be the first one up, and then she will sprint back to take the kid to their soccer game, to pick the kids up at school. I mean, she's like Wonder Woman, and so, you know, a lot of people fake these kind of mottos in life. You see so many mottos that aren't. She is literally that person. She is the No Days Off person. And so I think that perfectly encapsulates her. There we go, No Days Off. By the way, you don't get biceps like that by, going to the gym once every 3 weeks. So she works hard for this.
All right, Pastor Phil, what question do you have? Then I'll have one final question for Eric.
One final question. The greatest opportunity for financial gain in this world today is what?
Yeah. So we were talking about this a little while ago, and I really believe energy, right? Energy, I believe in cryptocurrency with every aspect of my heart and soul. There's a small group we were talking at these guys' house before, but listen, pretty much everything in the world is going to be correlated
and the
to
name
energy.
of our company is MultiClean. We are a commercial janitorial service, and we serve
work their way through.
The entire state of
At the end of the
Oklahoma
day, none of them can
and
succeed
Kansas
without massive
and
amounts
soon
of
to be
energy.
Arkansas.
Cryptocurrency is
We
going to
have
be
probably
the way that
grown
our financial systems run. There's
probably
no question about
5
it. It's going to
times.
be how money moves around the world, not the SWIFT system, not
I
the
think when we
antiquated
first
system.
started with
So we
you,
throw
we had
cryptocurrency, guess what? That's all going to
60
be
to 65
based in
employees.
energy. You know, I was mentioning to a
And
group before,
now we
if you
have a
crack
little over
GDP
300
growth
employees.
of any
Before
country, the countries with the highest
we got
GDP
involved
growth
with Thrivetime, we
are the
didn't really
countries
have
that have,
any systems or
you know,
processes
the lowest
in place.
nominal energy costs.
So I've probably
So
been
if we
to,
want to be the number one superpower in the world, guess what you
in
need?
6-7 years, I've
You
probably
need
been to
cheap
12 to
energy.
13
And
business
America is sitting on the best
conferences,
energy
and,
reserves anywhere in the world, and we're also sitting on the brightest
amazingly,
minds
each
anywhere in
time
the
I
world, which
go,
can
I
create
learn
other
something
forms of
new, and
energy,
I'm
and we're
so
doing that every
excited
single
to
day.
bring
So
it back and
oil and
show
gas
the
reserves
team
are second to
about
none.
marketing
China
and
would
how to
absolutely
implement how to help you guys implement the
for our energy
SEO.
reserves. They do everything to make sure that we
And
don't
the coaching
use them.
is
I mean,
just
they're the
great
biggest part
because
of the
there's
lobby
accountability.
that helps the lobby
And
against using our
it's
clean,
just a
natural gas
fantastic
and
way
oil and every other form of energy.
to grow your company.
They would die to have
having a
what we
relationship with
have,
Thrivetime.
and yet, we
It's
don't
just been
exploit it fully
amazing
until my
for
father came along. I
multi-clean.
mean, we were,
Oh my goodness, it frees me up
independent,
because
we were
then I don't have
exporting
to
energy
get,
the first
take a
term.
class on
Then in the
search
4
engine
years, what was
optimization
Biden's first executive order?
or learn
Shutting down
marketing
every
or shoot
pipeline,
video.
including the
That's not
Keystone
what
XL
we do.
pipeline. All
What
of a
we
sudden,
do
gas
is
prices
commercial
shot up.
janitorial service.
And I'm so sorry to people in California because you
And
dealt
you
with
guys
by
are
far
the
the highest
experts
energy costs in
on
this
marketing,
country,
and you
by lot.
teach me and
then
hold
guess
my
what? We're back
hand
to energy independent
and
again.
show
We're
me how to
exporting
do it
energy
right.
again, as opposed to buying energy from Russia. So
Therefore,
they can fuel
now
wars
my
and death and
company is
destruction
much,
of young
much
people,
larger.
or Venezuela, so they can
Folks, on
fuel
today's show, we're joined by a real
narco-terrorists,
client. He may
drugs
look
into
like
the
a
United
male
States
model.
and
He may
everything
look
else.
like a
So,
hologram, but he's a
energy
real
is kind of
person.
one,
He's a
two, and
longtime
three.
client. He's a
You
man
have
that
these
we consider to
SMRs,
be
you've
a
got
friend
fusion,
of the
you've got
Thrive Time
fission,
Show
you've
and a
got,
friend of mine.
nuclear
Ladies and
reactors.
gentlemen, please welcome
You've
to the
got so
show,
many really
Kevin.
cool
Welcome on to the Thrive Time
technologies
Show.
that
How are you, sir?
Clay, I'm doing great. Had a great
within
Christmas
5
holiday,
years.
and
Think about having
I'm glad to be here.
something the size of this
Okay,
stage
so
that can
first
light up an
question,
entire county
can you tell us
using,
what is your
fission
name,
energy
first
that
and
can't
last
melt
name, and what's
down,
the name of your company,
that's
sir?
not susceptible to
My name is
3
Kevin
mile
Thomas,
islands,
and
right?
the
Because
name
just
of our
technology
company
so much more
is
advanced, it's so much
MultiClean.
better.
We are a
You don't have
commercial
transmission for hundreds and hundreds of
janitorial
miles.
service, and we
And guess what that
serve
does? That that
the
further
entire
fuels
state of Oklahoma
AI growth,
and
it further
Kansas,
fuels
and
technology,
soon to
it
be
fuels
Arkansas.
robotics, it fuels
And
space
how long have we
travel, it
worked with
fuels
you
efficient
approximately at this point, sir?
cars. There's so much that can
been
be done with. It
about
certainly fuels
6,
crypto.
7 years.
I think my single
And
biggest
so many people
bet
reach
would
out
be-
to me. I mean, literally every day. I
would
just
be
talked to a
kind of,
woman this
the
morning. We get
advent
10 to 20
of
people a
modern
day
energy,
that reach
because
out
it's
wanting
gonna-
to see if we can
it-
help
listen,
them grow their companies. And
as
we
a
only work with
country that
160
has
clients, and I
the
do
lowest
that
cost
because
energy
I
in the
want
world,
to only work with
America can
people that
never
are
be
super
beaten,
coachable.
because
And so
honestly, the
this woman
entrepreneurs in this
on
country
the
are
call
by
today was
far
asking me. She said,
the
"Well,
best in the world,
what's
hands
the
down,
most
not even close. It's why we're
important
340
thing that you
million
do
people
that you have
with
to
a
do to grow your
$33
company?"
trillion economy.
And I was telling her, I said, that's
And
kind of
China
like asking
is what,
a skilled
1.6
chef,
billion
what's
now?
the most important ingredient to make great
$22.5
cookies? Is it
trillion?
flour?
So we're
Is
beating
it
by them
eggs?
by
Is it butter?
roughly a third.
It's like asking a home builder, what's
With
the most
a sixth
important
less people?
component to building a
Guys, we're
house?
winning.
Is it the footings? Is it
We're
the
winning so
frame?
long
Is it the
as government can
concrete?
stay the hell out of the way.
That's like asking.
And so long.
It's a great.
as we
It's a
have
great question,
priorities intact,
but really, it's
i.e.
all of
energy,
it.
which
And
allows
so, I
us to
really
do
wanted to
everything better,
talk
faster,
to you
cheaper,
today about all of it,
more
implementing all of it,
efficiently. So,
growing
my biggest
multi-clean,
bet
how
would
we've been
be-
able to do
would
it.
be
So,
energy.
first off,
One final
could you
question,
share
and
what
then
it's
Sean, I'm gonna have
like
you help us
to
move
have a
some podiums
coach that
around.
works
One
with
final
you
question
every
for you while
week,
Sean's getting ready for the
who's
group photo
committed
here.
to helping you
As it
improve your
relates to
business by
shalom and
1 or
business,
2%
the concept, it's a
every
Hebrew
week?
concept of a win-win.
Well,
It's a win-win.
Andrew is my coach,
you and I have done
and the great
25
thing
plus
about
events
having
together,
him
and it's always
as
been
a
a
coach
win-win.
is he
You know,
keeps
it's a
me
thing where the
accountable.
audience wins.
Because
Hopefully-
sometimes when
hopefully
you're
you
the
don't need to
owner,
go
there's
there.
no one to be accountable to.
But
And
it's a win-win
he
where I
keeps
have
me
a
on
great time.
track.
Hopefully
He
you guys
keeps
have a
me
great time. Hopefully you do as
tracking
well.
sales,
Can you talk about the
tracking
business owners
wins.
out there that
If
maybe
we
are a
have a
little bit
loss,
concerned
he helps me
about
figure
their
out
pricing?
what
You know, I'm a
happened.
doctor, I'm a dentist, I'm a
He
lawyer,
just
I'm a pest
keeps
control
me
company, and I'm
being
worried about paying
consistent,
myself first.
with our
Charging what I'm
processes,
worth,
with our
charging the
systems,
right
which
prices.
before
I see so many wonderful
we
humble
got
people
involved with Thrive
afraid
Time,
to
we
charge
didn't
what
really
they're
have
worth. Can
any
you just talk
systems
about
or processes
the
in
win-win
place.
nature of business of just
And in terms
making
of
it a win for
growth
you,
over these
for them,
past
for the customer, for the
6 or
employees,
7
kinda
years,
give your
I'm
philosophy on that.
not looking for you to
first of all,
share the
just let me
actual
say
sales
something about
totals
Clay.
because
I'm
you're a
not actually
larger
sure if
company at this
Clay,
point. But
you know,
could
ever
you
went
share
into
how
this
much
with
growth have you
with
had
a
over the
win-win
past 6 or
philosophy,
7
and
years?
you'll understand.
We
what I'm
have
saying.
probably
He put
grown
himself out there during the campaign.
probably Actually,
in ways
5
that
times.
very few people ever did.
We've
And
added.
he did it in a way
I think
that
when we first
sacrificed
started
much
with you,
more of
we
him
had
than he ever
60
got
to
back,
65
right?
employees.
And I think that's a testament to him and his entire family.
Now we have a little
right?
over
There's so many
300
people
employees.
who would come and they would show up at every single
So just to be
campaign event.
clear,
They were
I'm
there
making
for
sure I'm
the
taking
picture
notes here.
line, and they
You've
didn't do a damn
grown
thing.
5 times.
You know, this guy never
and you've
came
grown
for
from
the
how
picture
many
line. You know what he
employees to
did?
how many employees?
You know, he went to
About
Oregon
60,
and he put his
65
own money into having events and
well
popping up
over
tents and
300
dealing with cancellation
in that
after
time frame.
cancellation and airplane tickets.
So
and
let's
coordination of
unpack all the
speakers and guests and
specific
this and that.
aspects
And the
of
amount of
business growth. And I'm
adversity
going
that
to
this guy
pull up a
ran into
document so our listeners can
because he
see.
wanted to save
What's
this
your
country,
website
he
we can
wanted
go
to
to
spread
right
a
now to look
message.
at while I'm pulling up
It
this
cost
source
him years
document?
of his
What's your
life and
web
probably
address, sir?
millions of dollars
The
doing what he
website
did.
is
He did it because of the
multi-clean,
United
just
States
like
of
it
America and
sounds.
his love for this country, his love for faith in God.
multicleanok.com.
And so I'd actually say that was one situation where it
multicleanok.com.
wasn't a win-win.
Okay, I'm going to pull this
Maybe
up,
it's a
and as I
win-win
pulled
now,
up this
right?
source
Because we
document,
ultimately
many
achieved the
people say,
objective
Clay,
that
why
we
do you
cared
pull
about,
up
which was
these
saving this
documents?
nation.
Well,
But man, there was a lot
contrary
of
to popular
sacrifice that went
belief,
into what
most
he did.
successful people that
And
I
listen,
know
think in business,
use
has to be a win-win.
workflows, they
If
use
it's not a win-win, you know what
documents,
it
they
turns
use
into? It turns into
checklists.
lawsuits. I mean, it's just that simple,
We don't
right? If you
typically
boil it
memorize
down,
things. And a lot of times people say, what? I say, yeah, as a business owner, like I'm not going to try to impress you with my memory, but I am going to teach you proven systems. And so when somebody goes to implement these business systems as a coach, we're going to guide you through all of these processes. But there's a lot there to it. There's a lot of steps. It's step 1, it's step 2, it's step 3, it's step 807. It's a lot of steps here. And so as we're going through this, I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed, but I just want people to understand it's implementing all of these systems simultaneously that produces the success. So first off,
have a lot of fun doing
establishing your goals.
Surround yourself with
I'm not trying to have you hop on today's show and share what your goals are necessarily, but let's start with step 1. Why is it important for everybody out there to figure out clearly what your goals are?
Well, Clay, it's important to have goals. Otherwise, you wouldn't really know. You wouldn't know where you're going. You wouldn't know if you reached a certain level of success unless you have a goal that you're going for. And plus, those goals, for me anyway, they keep me motivated to grow my company, to grow my employees, to better my employees, and also to make my family stronger and better as well.
So we have those goals. That's step 1. We got to have those goals. Goals for our faith, our family, our finances, our fitness, our friendship, our fun. And some of us are better in certain areas. Some of us need help in other areas. But we got to have our goals. Second, we got to determine our break-even point. And I think that's something that a lot of business owners don't know. So I'm just going to be very clear with our listeners and kind of bare my soul. But when we work with a client like you, we charge you $1,700 a month, and we make a 20% margin. So we make $340 a month per client. I know what my costs are. Kevin, you know what you pay me. It's very clear, my profit margin. Most business owners, though, when we start working with them, they don't know their break-even point. Can you share why it's important for you as an owner of a company now with 300 employees to know your break-even point?
And I finally looked at my team.
Well, it's really important because you don't know if you're making money.
I'm done bottom fishing.
You need to know what your margins are going to be. You need to know what your cost is, so that way you can take your profit
and
then turn that around and pay your overhead, pay your employees, and most importantly is to pay yourself. And because if you're not paying yourself and if you're not making an income,
obviously win-win.
The business is pretty much dead.
For the value put out.
And again, I'm taking notes here. If it sounds like I'm typing a novel, I'm not. I'm just taking notes so everyone can really dial into this. Now, box 3, you have to know how many hours a week you're willing to work. Now, one thing about you, bragging on you, is you're willing to do whatever you need to do, but you're also super committed to your family. So again, I repeat, you're very willing to do whatever you need to do, but you're also
Let's hear for Eric Trump.
So we're recording this testimonial today on a Saturday.
Yes.
And virtually every entrepreneur I've ever met in my life, and I don't say virtually, every entrepreneur I've ever interviewed in my life on this show, we've interviewed
show, that's where you
all
wanna
of them
be.
are no strangers to working
That's where you wanna be.
Talk about
Thrivetime show, that's
with
where you
yourself
wanna
and your
be.
family, about how many hours per week you're actually willing to work.
Business growth is what you wanna see. What you wanna see. Thrivetime show, that's where you wanna be. Where you wanna be, yeah. If you've got the big goals to achieve, to achieve it. For entrepreneurs, it's a paradise. For employees, it's a change paradigm. For the poor and ignored, it's a change mind. For the explorers, it's a major find. For Tim Tebow, it's goals aligned. For the Eric Trump, it's a mastermind. For Robert Kiyosaki, it's game time. For the first time attendees, it's oh my. For the local homies, it's a sweet home of mine. For the real business people, it's so nice. For the people going places, it's a green light. For you and your group, it's a change vibe. You can name your pride. For the BOP takes 105 times. For me, it's what I do, it's my vibe. Because the Thrivetime Nation is my tribe. Thrivetime show, that's where you wanna be.
You had a long history running your business. I mean, you were the start. You had a long history of success. Hey, we need to dive show, that's
where you wanna be. Where you wanna be, yeah. You've got the big goals to achieve, you got to achieve it. It's time to thrive, what a time to be alive. Breath in my lungs, thank you, Jesus Christ. You got a chance, look, I'll change up on my list. So beat that clock, but you'll do a chance. Who do you prefer to keep making the wrong turns, or to turn it all around until you take the time to learn? Without vision, the people perish. That wisdom you get embarrassed, or be humble, grow 1,000-fold. People harvest and share it.
Can
we kick it? Yes, we can. If you come with business problems, you'll leave with plans. At the Thrivetime show, we make wealth expand.
focused on implementation.
Absolutely.
We teach marketing
That's really
and improving
huge
your
of our
brand.
show.
How to build the systems and finance. We teach how to hire people and manage them. How to bring your dreams into reality. Since 05 I've been doing it because that's my jam. Helping gold pursuers do it, putting cash in their hands. Now that Eric Trump has joined us, he has joined the band. Kiyosaki's coming tall because he's in the rhythm. Can he kick it? Yeah, yes he can. Kiyosaki's in the dojo of self-discipline. So get your tickets now at Thrivetime Show. And I'd buy them now while they're still on hand. Thrivetime Show, that's where you wanna be. Yeah, business growth is what you wanna see. What you wanna see. Thrivetime Show, that's where you wanna be. Where you wanna be, yeah, yeah. If you got the big goals to achieve, yeah, you got to achieve them. Thrivetime Show, that's where you wanna be. And again, this is not yeah. Business growth is what you wanna see. What you wanna see. Thrivetime Show, that's where you wanna be. Where you wanna be, yeah, yeah. If you got the big goals to achieve, yeah, you got to achieve them. Their website needs help. So I think about clients.
Has it been helpful for
tremendous
you
success
just speaking with Clay and
brands
learning
like
some of these nuggets?
Shaw Homes.
Oh, absolutely.
When we started working with Shaw Homes. By the way, Shaw Homes was just sold, but we started working with Shaw Homes. They were around $14 million a year of sales, and we helped them to grow over 100 to over 150
and I love that you guys have been
million in
standing
sales.
up
So
for
just to be clear, we
truth.
helped
You
Shaw
know,
Homes
I
grow
really truly believe that God is very
14
clear.
million in sales to over
That love is
150
truth
million in
and
sales.
truth is
We
love.
work with
And I
wonderful
feel like
brands
sometimes
like
we err on one
Oxyfresh,
side or the other.
Oxyfresh
And we need
today
to come
has
together
over
and fight him. And then I have this
550
beautiful tall man,
And
Mr.
branding
Patrick.
really is just
Are
the
you enjoying
perception that
this event
people
so
have
far?
when they see your company for the first time. Branding is your website, your print pieces, your logos, your business cards, your one sheets. Branding is the perception people have when they see your business for the first time. And I would encourage everybody out there.
Yeah, I do feel like we have to go back and probably watch what we learned today just to remember all the great nuggets that we find.
How highly would you rank your branding?
Absolutely.
Can you talk about the impact that's made having professional branding working for you?
Absolutely. Branding is pretty key in the commercial
See
game
this
full
beautiful
service.
blonde man all the time. I love it. Well, I promised them that they can go get some
that are
coffee
very
now.
cheap
So we
and
appreciate
don't really
you
offer
guys.
that
His Glory will be right
service. When we
back.
show up,
Welcome back, you guys. We are
everything that we
still
do
here with some people who
professional.
actually
Our
have been
card
on
looks good,
stage
our proposal
talking
looks
about
good.
their
We
small
have a
business and
team
giving
here that
advice.
continually
We have Karime and her
communicates
daughter
with the
Sydney.
customer
And you
or
guys tell us a
potential
little bit about
customer.
your business.
And so having that
So we have
brand
a
that,
residential and commercial
this
cleaning
is a
business,
professional
and
company.
we are essentially
We
a
have a lot of
startup,
respect
and we
out
are
there
one of
amongst our
Clay's
competitors
clients,
and amongst our
so we
clients
are
as
under
well,
his coaching.
because we have
And
that.
how has that been working out so far?
The quality
It's been
name
amazing.
goes with both
If
of them,
you
and that's
want to
very
learn how
important in this
to
industry.
basically do
Now,
everything
again,
from
there's somebody out
scratch,
there who needs to hear
he's
this.
helped us create
We've
our
been
logo.
working together for
he helped
years,
us
and every week,
decide on a
you're
name.
growing by.
I mean, everything
every
from
week
the
we're improving the
webpage
company, in my
to
opinion,
like
by
no
1 or 2%.
brainers and
So
how to
at the end
hire
of the year,
people.
you say, "What did we
He's
do?"
basically
Well,
helped
we
us
made
do
the
everything,
company
and we're 8 months
50%
in at
better.
this point.
Every week we're improving the
Something
company
really
by
cool
1 or
that I want to
2%. What are
mention
we
is
talking
that you
about?
actually
At the end
involve
of the
your
year,
kids
you've
in the
grown the
business.
company.
And so Sydney
At the
here
end of
is
the 5
12
years, you've
years
grown the
old.
company. At the end of the
And
6
she's
years, you look
learning
back
how
and
to
go,
run a
"Wow, we're
business.
5
She's
times
learning a
larger."
lot. Are you
What do you
learning a
say
lot
to
at this
somebody out
conference?
there that's looking to
Yes.
get rich quick?
Absolutely, I bet.
Somebody who's looking
So,
for
and she's
the
a little
one thing
gymnast,
that
and we
will
were just
turn
watching.
their
She's a good
business
dancer.
around and make them
But
rich
learning
tomorrow.
so
What
much
would you
from
say?
you. So I think it's pretty incredible that you have
I
involved
would
your kids
say
in this.
give it
And
up
it
on
sounds
that
like you've learned a
idea,
lot from Clay. What's
because,
maybe
there's no
something
such
new
thing
that you
as,
learned
it's
at
more
this
like
conference
get
so
rich
far?
slowly. That's the
So
only way to
I'm
get
very
be
much still a
successful is,
student, and it's so
take
helpful
your
to come
time,
to the
do
conference
it
because
right,
you get to
be
hear other
patient,
people's questions.
uh,
And as you're watching
be a
these other
man or a
business
woman of
owners who have been in
integrity
it
and
for a
make
little
good
bit longer
decisions,
or a lot bit
for
longer,
your company,
you're just constantly gaining
and just do it
nuggets like
right.
how to hire,
Now, step
maybe how to
four,
do
I'm
bookkeeping
I'm
better,
going through this
or like
methodically, folks.
what
Step
does it
number
mean
4,
to have
you
a
define your
Google
unique
search
value proposition.
engine
Got it.
and
Okay.
those kinds of
Step
things.
5,
so it's very
you
helpful
improve
to be
your
here in
branding.
person.
Step 6, you
His
have
book
to
is
come up with a
incredible as well. So,
3-legged
Sydney, are
marketing
you going to
stool.
take over the
And with
business
your
when you get
business,
older?
we have clearly
Maybe, it all
defined a
depends.
3-legged
Yeah,
marketing
maybe another
stool. What does that
entrepreneur.
mean?
We don't know.
A stool with 3 legs
anyways,
is
we are learning
stable.
so
A
much
stool
here
with one
today, you
leg is
guys.
gonna
Make sure
fall
that you
over. It's
check
probably
it
not
out
even a
at
stool. It's at that point sort of a
thrivetimeshow.com. This is
monopod.
the business
But you have to have
conference
a
with Clay
3-legged
Clark.
marketing stool.
You're
So
not
for
going to
your
want to
company,
miss the next
we have
one.
3
We'll be right
things
back.
that we do, and there's some other things we do too.
Amanda and I
But
have
one
Catherine
is we
with me, and then
really,
tell us a
really
little bit
focus
about
on
kind of what
search
they're
engine
getting
optimization by
out
gathering
of
the
this
most
conference
objective
so far.
reviews,
But
writing
first, I wanna
original
start with
content,
what you guys are
gathering
doing
video
right now.
testimonials.
So, Catherine, you were
Second,
telling
Dream
me a little
100.
bit
That's
about
where
your
you reach out to your
photography business.
ideal
Tell us
and likely
exactly what you
buyers
got.
consistently.
So
You
we're a
reach out to your
husband and
ideal and
wife
likely
team, and then we
buyers.
have a small team of
And
6
third,
others
you're
as well,
wowing
just
your
as small
customers
as
to the
we
point
are.
that you're
We
generating word
started
of
the
mouth. The
business
word of
5
mouth
years
is
ago,
becoming,
and we've
you're
done
intentional
really well.
about wowing your
And where
customers,
are you
thus
guys
it
based out
creates
of?
word of mouth.
Run
Could
to
you
Upland
talk about the
area,
importance
but
of having a
we're below
three-legged
us in
marketing stool for
California
anybody out
and
there
the
that has a
States.
Okay, I was gonna say,
one-legged
just in
marketing
case people don't
stool
know, that is
or no
California.
intentional
And then
approach
what
to
about you,
marketing at all?
Amanda?
Yes, I own a
Well,
succulent
Clay,
company. I've taken
the nice
about a
thing
year and a
about
half
the
off to be a
three-legged
mom, so I'm here
marketing
reevaluating where
is
my
that we learned
passions
that from
are,
you
where
at
my drive
Thrivetime.
is, and
We
getting
didn't
great
really know
insight
what
on
we were doing.
organizational skills and hearing
And
from
so
people
when
that
we
are able
joined up
to
with Thrivetime,
help you
we
kind of
started doing
organize
the
thoughts and
SEO. We
find
got
out what
our
it is that you really
website
want
in
to do with your
order.
business.
And so
Got
far,
it
and by
all
the way, we
cleaned
were
up
talking a
so that
lot
when
about
people
being a
search
mom
for
and how that
commercial
actually
janitorial
teaches
services, they
you
find us.
so many skills for
Also,
business.
when they
And
do
like
find
I was
us,
saying before,
we're
when they grow up,
topping
man,
Google
you can go
reviews.
do anything, rule the world.
And then
But what are
also
you
with
guys
the Dream
learning so far? I'll
100,
start
we
with you. Is
have
there
a
something that really
database
stuck
in
out
our
to you so far
Excel
in
and
this business
HubSpot
conference?
that we're
I really
continually
liked,
going to and
what the
making
first
cold
speaker was
calls.
talking about as regards to
And
making
the
friends
important thing
and
about all that is that
reevaluating who's
you
around
can't
you
just rely on
and who you
one.
surround yourself
Maybe one
with,
day
and
one's
that's
doing
going
well,
to
the next day,
encourage you
next
to do
month,
better
another
and go
one's doing
further.
well.
And you know what's
So
funny
it's
is Clay Clark
circular.
actually
At
brought
one
up
point,
that
one
scenario,
of them
right?
is always going to be
Have you
doing
ever
well
had
to
your
help your
wedding
company
pictures and
grow.
it takes you 6 months, 3
Now,
months
once
to get them
leads
back?
come in, you
And
have
if
to
you
actually
have
sell
flaky
something, and this just in. If we
employees who
don't
are
sell,
working
our
for you
business will
because
go to
they're your
hell. You know
friends,
that. Most of our listeners
then
know
those
that
people
too. But I
suffer.
think there's a
You
lot of
know, it's not
entrepreneurs out there that
just
have a bias. They
you
think,
and your pocketbook,
you
but
know, if
the
I have a
people
great
who are
idea,
waiting to
it'll
get
sell
their
itself.
photos, they suffer.
If I build it,
So
they
that's
will
really
come. And
important.
they
What have
think
you
that
learned
because
so
they've
far?
watched
Well, on that,
Field of
actually, on
Dreams.
that
They
thought,
think
we
that
were
because they've
discussing
watched
that
too
because
many
there's a
Ty
few people
Lopez
that came
videos.
up asking
They
about
think
the
that
flaky
because they've
friends that I've
watched
had, and how can
Get
that really
Rich
affect you?
Quick
And it really
videos
is
about
the
ClickFunnels and
company you
various
surround
other
yourself with is an
online.
extension of your integrity as a
I
business
call it
owner.
scamockery, but it's where
And
someone's
on
trying to get
that,
rich
learning
quick.
about
And I
how
would just
to
tell you
invest
that
in your company and
if you
know who
build
the
it, they
person
won't
is
come.
that's,
And a
there to
product
help
is so
maintain
good,
the
it still
outside
won't
of
sell
your
itself.
business and the
You
people
have
that
to
are there
get
to
out
help
there
you
and
with
work it. And so to do
the
that,
marketing.
you have
I mean,
sales
wanna know every
scripts,
aspect of your
you have
business from the
recorded
ground
calls
up
for
and know
quality
those people
control,
well
you have
and know
one
their families well,
sheets,
'cause
you
it's
have
the same
pre-written emails,
Absolutely. And you
you
know,
have
like you
lead
said, it does affect
trackers, you have
everything when you
all
have
of those
somebody who's
things in
flaky.
place.
And so
Can you
your whole
talk about the
business and your
importance of
clients
having
suffer.
intentionally
And also, I would
scripted
actually say they
calls
suffer as
and
well because
intentionally
people aren't
recorded
telling them, hey,
calls and
that's not how
intentional,
we do
just
work
being
here. You can't
intentional
be flaky
about
and get a
every
paycheck,
aspect of your sales
okay?
process?
So sometimes you need some harsh
Absolutely.
love.
We're
I know as
intentional with
Christians,
all
that's hard
that
for
with
us
our sales
sometimes, but
scripts.
you do need that harsh
We
love.
have
So
two
we are
ladies
learning
that are
so much.
inside
I am
sales
loving
and they're
it so far. Are you guys
continually
loving it?
calling.
We are
They have
loving
a
it. We are loving
fantastic
it. Yes,
script that they use.
Great speakers. They're keeping it.
The one
They're
sheet
keeping
that
us
we
pumped
use,
up. They're
we give it and
hilarious.
it
Clay Clark
compares
with all of
us
his
to other
shenanigans. I love it.
services.
Michael Levine,
And
who we're going to get in
actually,
a
that was
second. He
designed
said some
by
funny things.
you guys
So
at
they're
Thrivetime,
keeping
which
it
has been
fresh. It's
very
been a lot of
helpful.
fun. We'll be right
And
back.
then our lead tracker, which Andrew and I
Without
go
a
over
vision,
each week, we kind of look
discipline
because I
feels
don't
like
see
punishment.
all of the
But with
leads
a
that come
vision,
in, but we go over the lead
discipline
tracker and I'm
feels
able
like
to
alignment.
see
The hard
from
things
beginning
start
to
to
end
feel like
when
the
the lead
right
came
things
where it
because they are
is it
building
in the
I
bid
know many
process
of
right
you have
now,
had
and did we
a
get it or did we
challenging
not get
year.
it?
Many
And
of you
if we
watching
didn't get
this
it,
have a successful
that
company.
goes into
Many of you
another
have a
file
business
for a
that is
follow-up call in
struggled.
3 to 5 months. And
Maybe
if
you've
you
had a
don't
business
have
that
all
you
those
just, for whatever reason,
in some kind of
have
a
never been
process,
able
you're
to
just going
get
to lose
over the hump. Maybe you've
all
always
those
been just
potential
kind of
leads.
stuck in a rut, and that's
I
become
hope
your
that this
normal. Maybe you
podcast,
went
this
from,
broadcast can
the
change
goal
somebody's life. Now, in
used
part
to
2 of
have a
today's
goal
show,
to
I
thrive,
am going
and
to
now your
do
goal
a
is just
show
to survive.
specifically
Well, to build your
about
faith and to build
how
your
if you have a great
encouragement, you have
idea,
the mental
it won't sell
capacity and
itself. And you're
tenacity
going
needed to
to,
succeed.
part 2 of the show is
I
going to
thought
start
I
off
would
with
get one
Steve
of our
Jobs. Steve
younger
Jobs,
success
there's
stories
old
on
video
the
footage of Steve
Thrivetime
Jobs
shows you can
telling
talk to an entrepreneur
you, the viewer,
who
telling
I
me, the
don't
viewer,
believe is yet
that, hey,
30
a
years
great
old,
product
but yet is
will
still
not sell
achieving
itself.
massive it's
success.
powerful when you hear
Stephanie,
from other
welcome onto the
people
Thrivetime
who
show.
are
How are
actually
you?
achieving success, who did achieve
Doing
success.
great,
I encourage
thank you.
everybody to
So,
pay
Stephanie,
attention
where's home
and
for
take
you?
notes because we're trying to help you achieve
I
massive
live
success.
in rural western
Step number 8,
Wisconsin, so
you have to
Sparta,
know
Wisconsin.
how much money it costs
And,
you to
how did
acquire
you
a new
originally
customer.
hear
You have
about
to
the
determine your
Thrivetime Show,
sustainable
business
acquisition
consulting program?
costs. So just
I
today,
heard
I mean, I
about
talked
you
to a
guys
wonderful
actually
lady
through
today. I'm
Entrepreneurs
going to talk
on
to a wonderful
Fire.
young man.
You
I
did
say a
an
young man, a
interview
guy in
with
his late
JD
30s. I'm going to talk to a man in his late 30s
do you
today. I
remember
talked to a woman
when
this
you,
morning
where
who's
you
super
were when you
successful.
first heard that show?
And I know that whether they buy a
I
ticket
was
to a
cleaning a
conference
house.
or not, or whether they
Actually.
become a client
No,
or
you're
not,
cleaning a
Kevin,
house in
I
Wisconsin.
know that our
And from the
marketing
time that
costs
I
to
remember the
promote our
exact
conferences
house.
hover
Yep.
around $12,000
So
a
from
month.
the time that you
Yeah,
decided
so
to
I
get up
spend
the
about
courage needed to schedule a call
$12,000 every month to
until
market
now,
our
how much
business
have you grown?
conferences. Why am I telling you that? Well, folks, do the math.
Since
If we have a
then,
conference
let's
every 2
see,
months, so every 60 days, right? And we're spending
1,462%.
$24,000 to promote a conference, and we're doing a conference
And
every
what
60
kind
days
of,
approximately.
time frame is that
How
been
much
from the time
money
that
does
you,
it cost me for
reached
every
out
person who's
to
in
now?
attendance? So let's just kind of
Yep.
do some math for a second. I want to give
We
people some
started
real
working together
examples.
in March of
So
2020.
if I'm spending $24,000 this month, or over the next 2 months on promoting a conference, and we sell a total of 300 tickets,
we've done a
that
lot
means it's
together,
$80.
and,
It costs me
many things you've done
$80
very, very
per
well.
And so what I thought I'd do on today's show is I'm going to bring up conference attendee. And I'm not talking about the food we serve, Kevin. I'm not talking about the Eric Trumps, the Robert Kiyosakis, the Tim Tebow's that come in to speak. I'm not talking about any of the workbooks we give the attendees. I'm just talking about the cost to get in front of our ideal and likely buyers. It comes out to about $80 per ticket buyer. And I think if you ask the average entrepreneur, I know this because I've been doing business coaching for 20 years, the average client I talk to, the average potential client I talk to, they do not know what it costs them to get a new customer. Can you talk about that for a second? Why is it important to know how much money it costs you at MultiClean to get a new customer?
Realize that we are professional.
Well, Clay, it's really important because you have a sales team, you have an outside sales team, inside sales team.
So the website was key.
And
I
you
also
have
think
overhead
one
costs
thing that
along with startup costs for us. We have to start up with new equipment
too nitpicky about things and
all
just like
kinds of
wanting it
equipment to do the
perfect.
building. The bigger the building, the bigger the startup.
Get it done.
So
We can
it's very
always change
important
things
to
later,
nail
but it's
that
better to have
down
an awesome
on
website than a
what it
perfect
costs.
website,
Sometimes I have to
right
rein
now,
in the team and say,
now,
okay, we
step
can't
two,
buy all this
we
brand new
optimized your
equipment, that
website. A lot of people have great websites that look wonderful, but they're not canonically compliant. They're not indexable.
Most of
they're
our
not
startup
searchable.
costs are recouped
So therefore,
within
humans
the
on the
first
planet Earth
3
who are
to
using
5
search
months
engines can't find them.
of starting
You
a
didn't
contract
push
with a
back. You
customer.
leaned into it.
But it's
Talk to the
very
listeners out
important
there
to know
about how
that.
optimizing your
Otherwise,
website has
you're
helped
just
increase
not.
your
At the end of the month, you're like, where'd all my money go?
Oh, definitely.
So it's very
So
important to
Google Leads
know
are
what
like
that
huge
cost
for us and
is.
people finding our website.
Folks, I'm telling you, this is the kind of stuff they don't teach at
making
business
sure
school,
those
but they should.
keywords
Okay, so here we go.
are
The next is you
showing
got
up
to, this
as
has
we're
been
showing
stuff
up
we
when
have to
people
do. We
search,
have to,
you know,
box number 9, step number 9. We have to
or
create
whatever they're
repeatable
searching, whatever search
systems,
terms we're trying to show up for.
processes,
So that's
and
huge.
file
And then, of course,
organization.
the review
Now, so
side of
many
things
people,
is
what's
huge, too,
interesting
for,
to me, Kevin, is so many of our
pointing people
listeners,
toward their
they know
website.
about Dr. Z and the auto you auction. jumped ahead on my
Oh,
or they know
little
about
cheat
me
sheet
and the
here,
dog
step
training
three
business, or they know about me and the haircut chain. And they go, You guys Clay, have done a great job of gathering. did you grow up like was your objective dad like the reviews from your happy Zohan? Was your clients.
Uh,
dad really Talk into to the hair? Is
listeners
that
out
how
there
you
about
got
the
going?
importance of gathering
Or they'll go,
objective
Clay,
Google reviews from your
or
happy
are you and
clients.
Dr. Z really into
Oh,
cars?
it's
Do you have
so
like an
important.
automotive
when I started
background?
working with Thrive,
Or they'll
I
say
definitely
it's
didn't think, like, I needed to focus on that.
Z66aa.com.
I
And
think I had
Dr. Z,
12
full
Google
disclosure, just
reviews,
did
when we
sell
started
that
working
business. So it's now
together,
switching
and
the branding
now
over here
between
to
the two
America's Auto
locations,
Auction.
we have,
Okay.
I think,
And by the way, the company that bought his
210 or
auto auction
something
bought
like
it
that,
because
like
it was
5-star
successful.
reviews, all real.
People look up Make Your
And
Dog
when
Epic.
people
They
find
go,
us, I mean, it's
are
not
you?
even how much do you cost.
Did you have a
when
dog
can you
training
come? I don't care how much you
background?
cost.
People look up
So
Dr. Zellner and
people are ready to
Associates. They
close
go,
like that.
is that because you guys
Now,
are
step
in love
four
with
is
the human
building a
eyeball?
transparent and
And
easy
then
to
what happens
understand
is
sales
people are
system.
left
You know,
to think,
a pricing structure
are
where
you successful
somebody who maybe is not the
because
most complicated
of
individual,
luck?
somebody who's very simple like
Or
me,
have
can
you,
understand
Clay,
your
have you and
pricing
Dr.
real
Z
quickly.
been able to
Again, you've
combine
leaned in on that.
to
You've been great
build
to work with.
what,
Talk to the listeners
14
about the importance of having a
multi-million-dollar
simple
companies
to understand
because
pricing structure
you're
that
lucky?
your ideal and likely
Because
buyer
of your
can
vast
understand
knowledge of the human
immediately.
eyeball and hair, dogs?
You
Or
just
is it
want them to
because you're
not be
following a
confused
proven
or like,
process?
why is
And
this
that's
like
what
this
I
or
want to hammer
whatever.
home into
And
everybody's
also
cranium
from
right
the,
now.
like,
Everybody
inside
can do this,
perspective of the
Kevin, but
managers
you've
or
got to
whoever is
follow
answering your
a system.
phones,
What
they
do you
need to be
say to
able
somebody who says,
quickly,
I just
you
don't
know,
know
answer
if I can do
questions
it?
and
What would you
stuff
say?
without having a lot of training. So it needs to be able to
Well,
be,
I would say
you know,
that
in like
before
the sales
we
script
had a
when they're doing a
relationship
call
with
that they can just
Thrivetime,
very quickly know what the
I don't
numbers
even
are
think
and
I
not have
knew
to be
what a
complex
process
about it.
meant or
Now,
what a
step 5
process
is implementing
was.
sales scripting.
So
You have done a great job of
the
implementing
coaches there have
sales
helped
scripting, and
me
so many
put in
entrepreneurs,
some
I'm telling you,
great processes in place to track
they say, I
sales,
don't want to do a script
to
because I don't
learn
want to
about.
sound like I'm
We have
reading a
a
script. I don't want
software
my
called
staff
HubSpot
to
that you're
be
familiar with,
sounding like they're reading. I
Excel,
want my team to have their
and
own
we have another
personality.
software called
I want them
HighRise
to
that we
embrace
use, and it
their true
tracks
selves. And
all
therefore,
of
when
our
their phone rings at their
customers
local
day
business,
by day.
every time their phone
And
rings, it's just
without that,
like
we
a
would be
minefield. You
lost
never know if your
and
phone's going to be answered
floundering
professionally,
so
if it'll be
poorly.
answered at all. You
But
never know what
because
people
of
are going
these
to say.
processes in
Nothing's
place,
written down.
we're
It
doing
becomes a
so
verbal
well. It's
tribal
all
tradition.
out
It
of my
becomes a
brain
celebration of
because that's what it
jackassery.
was
I'll
tell the listeners out there, why have you embraced
and now it's
sales
not. Now
scripting
it's
and
in
how's it helped
paper.
your
It's
company?
on our server, so
Sales
that we
scripts
can
are
draw to
amazing,
it
as well as, of course, the call
each
recording
week,
so that we can
and
hold
that
people
really helps in
accountable
our
to the sales
growth
script.
and the flow
But it
of the
just
whole
takes
company.
all the guesswork.
And I want to
and
greatly
then
respect
all
your
of the
time. So the final
variables
5
of
minutes
what
we have
people
here, we're
say
going
are
to crank up
removed
the
so
speed a little
that
bit here.
if,
But
you know,
box number
something's
9, you
not
have
working,
created.
we're able to
We've
pinpoint
created
what that
repeatable
is and tweak
systems and
one thing
processes.
as
We've
opposed to, like,
documented these things
whatever
so we
the
can
people are
improve them over
deciding to
time.
say.
Box
So,
number 10,
and it
we've
also,
created
like,
management
it
systems.
just, it flows
Management
really
systems.
nicely,
I
and
mean,
it doesn't
what
sound
people on
robotic
your
at all
team will
once you
do
get
what
used to it. It's
jobs.
like I could say it off the
Think
top
about
of
it,
my
folks.
head,
If you
the
have a
exact
company,
scripts we use,
what
and we
are
know
you
they
expecting
close,
your
and that way
employees
we
to do
know
every
it
day?
works
What
instead
people
of
on your
just people
team
doing whatever
will
they feel
not
like.
do their jobs?
Now, you
And what
also
jobs
implemented a quality
are
control
people doing
checklist
well?
system where
Think about the
basically
people on your
it's
team.
not in
What are they
people's
supposed
minds.
to
They
be
don't have to
doing on a
remember,
daily
your
basis?
technicians don't have
And
to
what are they
remember
not
what they're
doing on a
supposed
daily
to do.
basis?
There's a
What are they being
checklist
held
for
accountable for?
everything.
And at the end of the
I
day,
mean,
Kevin, if
when
you
go
don't
in to
have
clean a home or a commercial
checklists
business,
and
there's a checklist for
documented
everything.
expectations
Talk to the
and
listeners
some
out there
sort of
about the mind
merit-based
freedom
pay,
that you've experienced
nothing's going to happen. Why do you have to take the time to make the checklists and the processes and the description of what you want employees to do and have some sort of merit-based pay system in place?
And is going to be held accountable to. And
if it's not documented, then they won't know what to do.
They don't get to say,
and also,
well, I didn't know. They don't get to
it's
say,
really
I didn't
difficult
know.
to
And then on the
rely
client side,
on all the
they
employees
have
to just think on their
set.
own. They
Instead
need
of
some
them
help.
setting the expectation,
They
we
need
are
time
setting
to
the
focus
expectation, as opposed to them being like, well,
and
I
to
thought
get
you guys
things
were going to
done.
clean
That
my
goes all
gutters.
the way
It's like,
from
well,
the lady
it ain't on the
that welcomes
checklist, so we're not
everyone
going to clean
in,
your gutters.
all the way up to our general
Now,
manager.
knowing
Even
and
to me, we
optimizing
have to have
your numbers in
documented
terms of the
expectations.
financial aspects of the company.
This is
Again,
so
you've
powerful,
leaned
folks.
into
I'm hoping you're
that.
learning
A lot of
something.
people
This
who
is,
are
I'm
into
telling you,
fitness,
folks,
I
this
find lean into
is the
that.
boring
They wanna
stuff
know,
that will make
how much
you
they
rich.
weigh, what
You
their
see,
body fat
when the
percentage
average
is, how many
person gets
calories they're
bored,
eating.
the
People that
great
don't
clients,
wanna
they
lean into
board
fitness,
down. What am I
don't
saying?
wanna know how
When the
many
average
calories they're
person
eating,
gets
don't wanna
bored,
know their body
the
fat percentage.
great, the
People
most
that are into
successful people, they
artwork,
board down. You
doing
see
well
a
at
skilled
art,
athlete, you see a
musicians. I've worked with a
successful
lot of
entrepreneur.
musicians,
They have
musicians that are
focused
good
on
want to know how
mastering
they
these
sound.
systems.
They
They have
want to
focused
hear
on mastering
themselves.
their craft.
People that are not
People like
good
Larry
don't wanna
Bird,
hear
the great
themselves.
NBA
A
player,
great
people like
ballet
LeBron
dancers
James,
and
people like
performers
Michael Jordan.
want to see themselves
They
in a mirror. They want to
practiced
analyze.
to the
Great
point that they
builders
couldn't
want
get
to
it
see
wrong. You don't
checklists and
practice until
processes
you
and
can get it
blueprints.
right. You practice until you can't
People
get
that
it wrong.
accountants
And
who
that's
are
why you
good
have
at
to
their job,
document
they
these
wanna know the
systems.
numbers.
Box number
Entrepreneurs who
11,
are
you have
not
to
good
create a
entrepreneurs should never
sustainable
wanna know their numbers.
schedule. You
Talk to
have
the
to have a
listeners out there about
schedule.
the
Kevin,
listeners
if
out there about the
you're
importance
not
of
doing the
knowing
group
and
interview,
optimizing
let's
your
say
numbers,
every week,
actually
if you're
knowing
not
how much profit
interviewing
you're gonna make
potential
per
client or potential employees every week, if you're not interviewing potential employees every week,
I would say
and you're not
number
having
one most
your
important
weekly
thing, in my
accountability
opinion, is
meetings
the
with your
tracking
team,
sheet that we
what's going to
implement,
happen
together,
if you
and
don't
that,
have a
every
predictable,
single day I'm
repeatable
in the
schedule in
tracking
place?
sheet and knowing like
Well,
exactly
nothing's going to
where my
happen.
business is.
That's the
Especially
key.
now, I'm very removed
Having the group interview has been great. We
from
just
the
hired
day-to-day kind
a
of
salesman in our
operations.
Oklahoma City
I'm
office
not
to the
answering
group
the
interview,
phones. I'm
which
not
was
doing this. I'm not
fantastic.
seeing the
And
complaints or
also
any
in
quality issues
Tulsa
or
as
whatever.
well.
But I have,
But
my
just
finger on the
having
pulse of my
those
business and every single
having
aspect
those
of the,
sustainable
revenue,
schedules in
expenses,
place
leads,
is just
closing
great for the
rates,
growth of the
number of
company.
appointments, number of reviews,
Now,
number
Kevin,
of
I've
photos that are
got a
getting
wonderful
uploaded. Like,
client.
just
I'll be very
everything you
vague.
could
They're based
possibly
in
know about the
Florida,
business,
and they
I
were
know.
telling me, they
So
said,
I'm
Clay, I
never
have a vacation coming up in
questioning,
California. And I said,
or
it's great.
going
They
off
said,
of
no, it's terrible. I
emotion,
said,
because
why is
that's
it
not
terrible?
what
They
we
said,
want to do. We want to go off
I
of
haven't
facts
been
and
doing the group
numbers.
interview consistently.
And so
And
I
I've kind of
know
delegated that to
we're growing or
somebody in my
whatever, we're
office that's
closing, et cetera, because the numbers don't
I don't really
lie.
know
So I
what
love
they're
the tracking
saying. I
sheet,
just
and
know that
I
the
think
group
it's the
interview,
number
I'm
one
not
thing that people
involved in the
should
process.
implement. If they don't do
And
nothing
I'm
else,
just
they need to know
looking
their
at my
numbers.
calendar. And
Now,
if
you've
we go on
attended
this
multiple
trip
in-person two-day interactive
to
business
California,
workshops. And the reason why we include that
we're
is
going to
a
have some problems.
quasi-free service.
What
do
do
I
you
mean by
say
that?
to somebody
it's
out
not a
there
revenue
who's
generator for me.
abdicating
If you're a client
their
of mine, I say,
hiring
hey, you can come to
process
these
or
events. We make it very, very
abdicating
affordable.
their
If you're not a
their
client,
sales
you can pay
calls? I say
$250
abdicate.
to
They're not
attend the
delegating.
workshop.
Delegate means
And,
to
if you-
assign
you-
and then to
you know,
follow
if you're in a
up
tight
to make
spot,
sure
we
it's
have
done
scholarship
correctly.
tickets available.
Abdicate
The point
means
is
to just
everybody
say,
can
well,
afford to
someone else is
attend.
handling it.
Can you
What do you
explain
say
how
to
the
somebody out there
interactive business
specifically that
workshops
is
have actually helped you
abdicating
to
their
maybe further
hiring process,
understand
the group
path
interview process,
or
the process
to,
for recruiting
get
employees?
a whole picture view
Well, I
of the
love to be
actual business plan?
involved in all the group interviews.
Yeah, I
And
love
usually
I love the
whenever there's a group
conferences
interview,
because I
there's
always
anywhere
walk
from
away
4 to
with
12
action items.
people.
Even though like I go over
And
these
the
things with
great
my
thing
coach
about it
every
is that
week,
within the first
it
5
just I always
minutes,
walk
you
away with
know
something like, wow, I
the
get
2
like
or
a
3
fresh
that you want
perspective
to
on
keep.
things
And
because
so
you're
that
interacting with a
saves
lot of other
me
business owners and like
so much
bouncing
time
ideas,
because
developing each other and hearing
interviewing
what
12
worked for
people
summer
takes
what people
12
are struggling
hours.
with. And of course, then
Interviewing
like
12 people in a
having
group interview
you like
takes about
explain
an
it in the
hour.
way that you do,
And
it
I
just
love
makes
that.
it
I love saving
very
time. I
like
love saving
actionable.
money
Like
like
I always
that,
go away with
where
like,
I'm not having
this
to
is what
spend
I need
all
to do
day
on
interviewing people that
Monday
may
to
or
make
may
these
not
things
even
happen.
show
It's
up.
not just like this
And it's just
motivational
great.
thing.
And I highly
Do you
encourage
laugh a little
owners
bit?
to
Do you
get
have a little bit of fun?
involved in the
I
hiring
have a lot of
process.
fun at the
Group
conferences.
interviews are
Okay.
very
And then what kind of
successful, and
people
encourage
attend
you
the
to do that.
conferences? And now, again, so many people can hear this stuff and
Not
they go, this is
liberals.
so overwhelming. There's so much to do. Box number 12, you want to create human resources and recruitment systems, and we have systems for that.
We start
Box
at
number
7
13, you want to look at your numbers. You have to measure what you treasure. You have to measure what you treasure. And by default, you will slack where this is important. You will slack where you don't track. By default, you will slack where you don't track. And you have to measure what you treasure. I hope this is sinking in for somebody. Casualness causes casualties. I want people to think about these words. Casualness causes casualties. You have to measure what you treasure. You will slack where you do not track. These are all things we're going to teach you. Kevin, we've got to have accountability though. And so anybody out there, I have a law firm I've used for years, wintersking.com. The reason why I pay them on a monthly basis is I want to make sure that all my filings are correct, everything's being done properly. I have an accounting firm called CCK. CCK, I've used them for years. And
Okay, so
over
you
10 years,
came to the
actually.
workshop,
And I've used them. And the
you've
reason why I
implemented the
pay them on a
tracking
monthly
sheet, the
basis
group
is I want to
interview.
make sure
People
that
say,
I'm
"Ah, it's
paying
so
my
hard to
taxes
find
on
people."
time,
I've
properly,
never had
that
a
sort
hard
of
time
thing.
finding people. Even right now,
In
I don't have a hard
any
time
area of our
finding
life
people,
where we
but I
want to
can tell
have
you,
improvement,
it's a
I
system
would
that I've
argue you need to have a
applied. It's a
coach, whether it's an
proven system,
accountant,
proven process
whether
that
it's
I've
a
done.
lawyer. They have different
I've been
names. Sometimes
doing
they're called a
this
lawyer.
process
Sometimes
of
they're
hiring
called an
people
accountant.
this
Sometimes in
March, I know
fitness.
it's
So
crazy.
many people I know, a lot of
22
my,
years
this is true.
of doing
Some
the
of my
same
friends are former
system
pro athletes.
every week,
And they tell me,
interviewing
they
people.
say, Clay,
22 years. I've been
as
doing
soon
this.
as
I'm a
I
40-year-old
retired
person.
from my
I've been doing the
sport,
group interview for
I
22
quit working
years.
out. And I
You
go,
talk
okay,
about
that's
the
fine.
importance of
And they
doing the
go,
group
you know what I
interview and
did
how
this
it
year? I
changed
said,
your
what'd you do? They
business.
said, I hired a
Oh, it's
personal
so
trainer. And I said, what
important.
happened? They
Like,
said,
that has
now I'm
been,
back in the
I would
flow.
say
And
that's
I
a
think
big
we all
game
just
changer
need,
too,
we need to
because
know
I
three things.
always
We need to
have
know what to do.
candidates like ready to
Two,
go
we
when
need someone to
something
hold us
happens.
accountable.
And, you know, in the past 2 months,
And then we need to
we've
have
taken
someone who
on a
has the
huge
tools.
contract, and I've
Can you
hired
talk to
probably
somebody out there
40
that's
people.
thinking
And
about
somebody quit
scheduling
today,
a
somebody quit
13-point
yesterday.
assessment
I've
to
hired
talk
somebody 3
to
days ago.
myself
Doesn't
and our
matter.
team
Next,
about
next,
becoming
you
a
know,
business
so
coaching client?
it's amazing.
And just a little context.
Well, I remember when I
if
had my
just so you
first
know, things that will get you
meeting
fired
with
if you're out there
you,
and you don't know about
I thought, I
serene-clean.com.
have nothing
If
to
you're not on
lose,
time,
absolutely nothing to
if you don't
lose
honor your
except
commitments
growth.
to the client, you're
And
going to get fired.
after that
And there are certain people
20
on the
to 30
planet
minute
Earth who
meeting
don't
with
want to honor
you,
their commitments to their client, and they don't want to
I
show up on
thought
time, and therefore you're
this
not
is
a
going
good
to
fit
change
for Serene Clean. So
the
she's not running
trajectory
around
of
just randomly
multi-clean.
firing people. She's just saying
And
you have
and
a
it
certain
has.
standard and expectation.
And
And on
because
behalf of the
the
customer,
coaching
because
is,
you're a
they
customer
keep you
advocate,
accountable.
you're saying this is
And
the
like I
standard
said
we have to
earlier,
deliver at.
sometimes it's hard
Now,
to
next
keep
thing, step
owners
number 11 here.
accountable
You
because
pay
they
yourself
think
well
they
and
know
you don't
everything
apologize for it. Now,
and we
it
don't.
is to be said that you actually make more money
And
now
I
per
so
month
I've
than many
loved
people
it.
make per
I've
year.
loved the coaching. I've
And I
loved
repeat that. You make now more money
having
per month
Andrew
than many
keep me
people now make
accountable.
per
And when
year.
sometimes
And you've
I
learned to
can't
pay
make the
yourself
meeting, we
well
have phone
and not
calls.
apologize for it. But
And
I knew
it's just
you,
been great. It's been
you know,
good
going back to
accountability.
when you
Even
first
my
called
wife
us to
says,
where,
no matter what,
you know,
you're
you were
never
really
leaving Thrivetime.
grinding to make it work. And now you're doing
Now,
really well.
let's say this.
Now that
Somebody,
you're paying
you know how
yourself
we
well
live
and
in a
not
soundbite
apologizing for it,
world.
are
So
you
if you
able
could,
to
I won't
enjoy
paint you
more
too much
time
into a
freedom,
corner here, but
to
if you
work
have
out,
30
to read, to
seconds,
spend
you
time
know,
with family, friends,
and
to
somebody
think
said,
more
Kevin,
meta
how
on your
has
business, or how has that
the
impacted you?
Thrivetime
Oh
Show
yeah,
business
definitely not
coaching
having to worry
program
about income
impacted your
is
business, or
really
how would
empowering,
it
and
how
also,
could
of
it
course,
impact
just allows you
somebody's
to do a lot
business?
of good in the world.
Kind of a 30-second
Because number one, we're here to
overview
make
or
money,
summary.
but money is
How would
just
you
a tool,
describe
and
the business
so
coaching and how
that
it's
allows
impacted
us
your
to,
business?
you know, help the
Well,
community,
it's
help our
given me
families, you know, buy cool
it's given me
stuff,
my
of
why.
course. But the time freedom
And
is
it's
really,
taught
that's the
me
whole point
the
of this for me. Is
importance
like,
of
I don't
systems.
want to
It's
have to
taught
be
me the
anywhere I don't want
importance
to
of
be at any
family
given
time
time. So
and the
and I can
S7
do that.
goals that
Now,
you
final thing is
impress upon
you've
me
been
all
able
the time,
to
because
sustain
you know, you
diligence
can be
and
the owner of a
accountability. What does
company
that
and
mean?
work 100 hours
Diligence
a
is
week,
where
and then you have a
it's the steady
family.
application of effort over
And
time.
so
It's
the
like long
Thrivetime
after the
relationship I've
motivation,
had
the
now
big
for 6,
idea
7
wears off. You know,
years
there's always the excitement
has
of a new
done
idea. Woo!
everything
New
to
idea.
not only improve
Yes,
my
new
business,
idea.
but
Love
improve
the new
my
idea. Just had a new
life,
idea.
improve
I
my
should buy a boat.
relationship
I
with
should
my
buy. I should
son and
start
my
a company.
wife.
It should be called
And
Serene
it's just
Clean.
been
Well,
fantastic. And I
long after that
highly
idea has worn
encourage, if
off,
you're thinking
then
about
diligence kicks in.
growing
And
your
diligence is the
business
steady
and getting
application
out of
of
a
effort. If you're
rut,
out there and you've ever played sports
to
at a
meet
high
up
level,
with
you've ever
Clay
been a
and all the people
top-notch
at Thrivetime.
speaker, you've ever been a
Final
top
question I
musician,
have here for
anybody
you.
who's out there who's done
I don't
anything
know
at a
that
high
people
level,
know this because I try to keep
level
it
of
secret.
preparation
I don't try to talk about it
is
a
what
lot, but
prepares
this is
you
just real.
for the
You know, we charge
ovations.
people $1,700
Again,
a
the
month. That's what we charge people.
preparation is what
$1,700.
prepares you
And
for the
people say,
ovation.
why do you charge that? Well,
And
it's a
then, but
20% everybody out there,
margin,
and that's what we do. Now we have some clients that we partner up with. We make a percentage of the growth, and frankly, I make a lot of my wealth by teaming up with clients and these sorts of things. But when I was building my company, DJConnection.com, I remember when I met with the Yellow Page guy. He told me it was going to be $2,500 a month to buy a Yellow Page ad. I mean, this is over 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And that amount was wild. So I got a job at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV. That was my get-rich system. As I went to work, that was my life hack. I got a job at Applebee's, Target, and DirecTV. But I think everybody needs a little bit of a hand up, maybe not a hand out, but a hand up. And that's how we make the packages affordable. $1,700 a month, 1700. It's less money than it costs to hire a minimum wage employee. Also, it is month to month, although most of our clients are with us for basically until they sell the company. Our average client is with us for over 6 years. But we do have scholarships. We work with a couple clients a month where if they need help financially, we work with them at a discount. What do you say to somebody who's thinking about coming to our next workshop with Eric Trump or Robert Kiyosaki or Tim Tebow or whatever workshop we have coming up? What do you say to somebody somebody who's on the fence right now. They're going, I'm thinking about scheduling a 13-point assessment. I'm thinking about buying a ticket for an in-person workshop. Kevin, what do you say to
by
over 500%?
I would say do both.
So
I've probably been to
1,262% is certainly going to impact that average.
in 6,
What
7
advice
years,
would
I've
you have for
probably
anybody out there
been to
listening who's
12 to
contemplating
13
going
business
to
conferences,
thrivetimeshow.com /EO
amazingly,
to schedule
each time
a
I go,
consultation? Because
I
again,
learn
if people want to
something
schedule
new,
a free
and I'm so
consultation
excited
with
to
me,
bring it
I
back
don't charge for that. We
and
do have
show
call
the team
screeners.
about
We're going to make
marketing
sure
and
I'm
how
not
to
wasting your
implement,
time and you're not wasting my time to see if
how
you're
to
a
help
good
you
fit.
guys
But there's people out there
implement the
contemplating
SEO.
going to
And the
thrivetimeshow.com
coaching is just great because there's accountability.
That's thrivetimeshow.com
And it's just a fantastic
/EOFire.com.
way
What
to grow your
advice
company.
would you have or feedback would you have for
Having a
somebody thinking
relationship
about
with
attending one of our
Thrivetime
in-person
it's just
workshops
been
or
amazing
scheduling a
for
one-on-one
multi-clean.
consultation? And I don't know that we talked about it, but we do the photography, video, web, search engine, online ads. From a peace of mind perspective, what does that do for you as an owner, knowing that, hey, it's a flat rate I'm paying, and I have a team that handles all of that for me, the graphic design, the photography, the search engine, the web development, the strategy. What does that do for you?
Anything, it's probably not a good
Oh my
fit
goodness,
because
it
your
frees
coaches
me
are
up
gonna
because
push
then
you,
I don't
and that's
have
the
to
whole
get
point. You're
take a
paying them to
class
push
on
you.
search
So
engine
if you're not ready and
optimization
willing to make changes,
or
then
learn
don't
marketing or shoot video.
I tell you
That's
what,
not
I
we
really do
What we
appreciate you
do
taking
is
time out of your
commercial
busy schedule
janitorial
to join
service.
us. I'm so excited about your
And
growth
you
there.
guys were
I
the
hope we will see you in
experts
December. Are you
on
coming in December to the
marketing, and
conference?
you teach
not with
me
this
and hold
big
my
job.
hand
I'm
and show
on
me
a
how to
military
do
base.
it right.
I'm on a military base right
And
now. So
therefore,
I'm
now my
rejected.
company
Okay, that's
is
fine. But maybe we'll
much,
see
much
you at the
larger.
next one, okay? Thank you for Kevin, being here. I really do appreciate appreciate your time. For
Thank
anybody
you,
in the
Clay.
Oklahoma
Take
care. Bye-bye. Area, anybody in Kansas, I believe you said
Hey guys, my name
Kansas,
is Stephanie
Oklahoma.
Pickett. I
What
own
other
the
states are you in now,
Serene,
Kevin?
and this is my grandma
We're in
Sue.
Oklahoma and southern
We are
Kansas,
gonna
and
briefly just
this
go
in
over the
2025,
100
we are
drop-offs
looking to
that she
open an
does for
office in
Serene
Northwest
Clean and how
Arkansas.
it has really
I
helped
encourage everybody
grow
out
our
there,
business,
check out the website right now. I'll pull it up one more
and
time,
spread
folks. That
the word of our
website
business
is
in our area.
multicleanok.com. That's
Just a little background on Serene Clean
multicleanok.com.
and
If you're looking
working
for a
with
commercial
Thrive Coaching. So I
cleaning
used Thrive
service
out
that
of
you can
Oklahoma
trust, go to
for 2
multicleanok.com.
years
Kevin, thank you so much for your
and when
time,
we
sir. I hope you have a
started
great
working
rest
with
of your day.
Thrive, we were at
Thank you, Clay.
200,000
Bye-bye.
in revenue a year.
One of the things
and
that
this year we're
really
projected
hurt
to do
Apple
1.1
was after I
million in
left,
revenue
John
a year.
Scully
So
got
it's
a
grown
very serious
very
disease.
drastically since we've
And that
implemented all the
disease, I've seen other
systems,
people
and
get it
that's what we're
too.
gonna talk about
It's
today
the
is
disease
some
of
the-
thinking
one of the
that
systems that they
a
have
really great
encouraged
idea
and,
is
harassed
90% of
us
the
to
work.
use, and it works really
And that if
good.
you just
And that's
tell
100
all these
drop-offs,
other
and that's
people,
something that my
here's
grandma
this
Sue
great
does for
idea,
me, and
then of
she
course they can
is
go off and make it
absolutely
happen.
killing it. So,
And the
Grandma,
problem with that
basically, if
is
you can
that
just
there's
describe
just
what
a
it is
tremendous
that
amount
you
of
do at these
craftsmanship
drop-offs.
in between a great
what do you do?
idea and a great
When I
product.
get there, of course,
Clay
I
Clark is here
introduce
somewhere. Where's my buddy Clay?
myself and the business, and I just tell them that I am a business-to-business.
Clay's the greatest.
I'm not there to
I met his
sell
goats
anything.
today. I met
I'm
his
just
dogs.
there
I met his
to
chickens.
introduce
I saw his
them to a new
compound. He's like the greatest guy
I
in it.
ran from his
So what do you
goats, his
bring
chickens,
and
his
meet
dogs.
with them? I
So this
actually
guy's like the
have a
greatest
little
marketer
desk
you've ever
for
seen, right? His
them,
entire
and
life.
then,
Clay Clark, his
a sweet
entire
treat,
life
and I have
is
the
marketing.
paperwork that,
Okay, Aaron Antis, March 6th and
all about
7th.
Serene
March
Clean.
6th and 7th.
As I'm
Guess who's
talking
coming
to
to
them, I
Tulsa,
try to,
Rusala?
like, give a little bit of-
Santa Claus? No, that's March 6th and 7th. You're going to be joined by Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki, best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, probably the best-selling, or one of the best-selling business authors of all time. And he's going to be joined with Eric Trump. He'll be joined by Eric Trump. So we got Eric Trump and Robert Kiyosaki in the same place. Aaron, why should everybody show up to hear Robert Kiyosaki?
Well, you got billions of dollars of business experience between those two, not to mention many millions of books have been sold. Many millionaires have been made from the books that have been sold by Robert Kiyosaki. I happen to be one of them. I learned from the man. He was the inspiration. That book was the inspiration for me to get the entrepreneurial spirit, as many other people.
Now, since you won't brag on yourself, I will. You've sold billions of dollars of houses, am I correct?
That is true.
And the book that kick-started it all for you, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the author, the best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, the guy that kick-started your career, he's going to be here.
He's going to be here. I'm pumped.
And now Eric Trump, people don't know this, but the Trump Organization has thousands of employees. There's not 50 employees. The Trump Organization, again, most people don't know know this, but the Trump Organization has thousands of employees. And while Donald J. Trump was the 45th president of these United States and soon to be the 47th president president of these United States. He needed someone to run the companies for him. And so the man that runs the Trump organization for Donald J. Trump, as he was the 45th president of the United States and now the 47th president of the United States, is Eric Trump. So Eric Trump is here to talk about time management, promoting from within, marketing, branding, quality control, sales systems, workflow design, workflow mapping, how to build. I mean, everything that you see, the Trump hotels, the Trump golf courses, all their products, the man who manages billions of dollars of real estate and thousands of employees is here to teach us how to do it.
You are talking about one of the greatest brands on the planet from a business standpoint. I mean, who else has been able to create a brand like the Trump brand? I mean, look at it. And this is the man behind the business for the last, pretty much since 2015. He's been the man behind it. So you're talking, we're into 9 going into 10 years of him running it, and we get to tap into that knowledge. That's going to be amazing.
Now, think about this for a second. Would you buy a ticket just to see Robert Kiyosaki and Eric Trump? Of course you would.
Of course you would.
But we're also going to be joined by Sean Baker. This is the best-selling author, the guy who invented the carnivore diet.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Sean Baker, he's been on Joe Rogan multiple times. He's going to be joining us. So you've got Robert Kiyosaki, the best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Eric Trump, Sean Baker. The lineup continues to grow, and this is how we do our tickets here at the Thrivetime Show. If you want to get a VIP ticket, you can absolutely do it. It's $500 for a VIP ticket. We've always done it that way. Now, if you want to take a general admission ticket, it's $250 or whatever price you want to pay. And the reason why I do that, and the reason why we do that is because we want to make our events affordable for everybody. I grew up without money. I totally understand what it's like to be in a tight spot. So if you want to attend, it's $250 or whatever price you want to pay. That's how I do it. And it's $500 for a VIP ticket. Now, we only have limited seating here. With the most people we've ever had in this building was for the Jim Brewer presentation. Jim Brewer came here, the legendary comedian Jim Brewer came to Tulsa, and we had 419 people that were here. 419 people.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, if there's no more room, I felt kind of bad that a couple people had VIP seats in the men's restroom. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. But I thought, you know what, we should probably add on. So we're adding on what we call the upper deck, or the top shelf. So the seats are very close to the presenters, but we're actually building right now. We're adding on to the facility to make room to accommodate about another 30 attendees or more. So again, if you want to get tickets for this event, all you have to do is go to thrivetimeshow.com. Go to thrivetimeshow.com. When you go to thrivetimeshow.com, you'll go there, you'll request a ticket, boom. Or if you want to text me, if you want a little bit faster service, you say, I want you to call me right now. Just text my number. It's my cell phone number, my personal cell phone number. We'll keep that private between you, me, everybody. We'll keep that private. And anybody. Don't share that with anybody except for everybody. That's my private cell phone number. It's 918-851-0102. 918-851-0102. I know we have a lot of Spanish-speaking people that attend these conferences. And so to be bilingually sensitive, my cell phone number is 918-851-0102.
That is not actually bilingual. That's just saying Juan for a one. It's not the same thing.
I think you're attacking
My name
me.
is
Now,
Elizabeth
let's talk
Walker.
about this.
I
Now,
own
what
a
kind of stuff will
business,
you
the
learn at
Home
the Thrivetime
Keeping
Show
LLC.
workshops? So,
I
Aaron, you've
was
been to
looking
many
to
of
learn
these over the
pretty much
past
anything there
7,
is
8
to
years. So
learn
let's
about
talk about it.
business,
I'll
new
tee up the
business
thing, and then you tell me what you're going to learn here, okay?
So
You're going to
I
learn
really
marketing.
needed to know
Marketing
everything
and
about
branding.
everything.
What are we going to learn about marketing and
I have learned how
branding?
to
Oh yeah, we're going to
implement
dive into,
systems
so many people
from
say,
hiring
I got to get my brand known
the actual
out there, like the
day-to-day
Trump brand,
systems.
right? You want to get that brand
I like
out
that
there.
the
It's like,
workshop
how do I actually make
gave
people
tangible
know what my business
systems,
is? You know,
but
make it
was very entertaining
a household
and
name. You're
interactive.
going to learn
Clay's
some
presentation
intricacies of
style
how to do
was
that.
You're going to learn
energetic.
sales. So many
It
people struggle to
was
sell
exciting,
something.
and
This
it
just in, your
gave
business
me
will go to
hope
hell
that
if
there's
you can't
actually
sell.
a
So we're
lot
going to teach you sales.
of
We're going to teach you
success still to be
search
done in my
engine
business.
optimization.
The atmosphere was
and the search engine results.
energizing, invigorating, nothing
no exaggeration,
boring about it.
hundreds of
It
people
was
throughout your
absolutely
career and
exciting.
thousands
Maybe
of
that's the biggest thing I've learned
and
is
most
that
people
this can
struggle
be
with
simple.
managing people. Why does everybody have to
I
learn
think
how to
that's what
manage
they're
people?
missing out on.
Well, because first
My
of
name is
all,
Elizabeth
people
Walker.
are,
I'm the
you either
owner
have
of
great
Nook and
people or
Creamy
you
Home
have
Keeping.
people who suck.
I first heard about Clay on the radio
it can
on
be a
1170
challenge.
KFAQ.
You know, learning
Switching
how to
through the
work
radio
with
stations
a
and everyone
large group of
talking,
people
and
and
they
get
were
everybody
funny.
pulling
So
in the same
I hung around a little
direction can
bit.
be a challenge.
Clay's team
But
has
if you have
impacted
the
my
right
amount of
systems, you
internet
have the right
leads through
processes,
Google,
and you're
and we
really
just have
good at
people calling
selecting
us
great
almost
ones,
every single
and we
day
have a process we
saying they
teach
found us
about
on
how
Google.
to
So it's
find great
definitely
people.
broadened
When you
our
start with the
horizons
people who
and
have a
our
great
client
attitude, they they're
clientele,
teachable,
but we also
they're
have people
driven,
that find us
all of
other
those
avenues,
things,
and I
then
always direct them
you
to our
can get
Google
those people
reviews.
all pulling in the same direction.
Typical
So we're going to
interaction
teach you branding,
during our
marketing,
weekly
sales,
meetings
search
is
engine optimization.
fun, it
We're going to
is
teach you
accountability,
accounting. We're going to teach you
it's,
personal
an
finance, how to
hour
manage your
of
finance.
hard
We're going to teach you
discussions and
time
a lot of
management. How do you
learning.
manage your time?
We
How do
try to
you get more done during a typical
I
day?
always share
How do you build an
concerns I had during
organization
the
if you're not
week.
organized?
The
How do
team
you
always
do
asks
how do you
me
do
what I need
organization?
help
How do you
with,
build an org
and then
chart?
they help put me
Everything
back on
that you
track
need to know to start
where
and
I
grow a
need to be.
business will be taught during
Every
this
business owner
two-day
needs to play Clark
interactive
and
business
his team
workshop. Now, let me
because
tell
they
you
put
how the
a path
format
out
is
in
set
front
up
of
here. And
you,
again, folks, this
a
is
proven
a
system of
two-day
success,
interactive
and then they coach you along the
15.
way. They don't do it
Think
for
about this,
you.
folks.
They
It's
don't
two
hold your
it's 2
hand.
days.
They just
Each day
stand
starts
right
at 7
beside
a.m. and it
you.
goes
They
until
cheer
5
you
p.m.
on.
So from
They
7
share
a.m.
with you what you
to
need
5
hear,
p.m.
whether
2
it's
days.
good or
It's a
it's
2-day
bad, or
interactive
it's what you
workshop.
wanna hear,
The
it's
way
what
we do
you
it is we
don't
do a
wanna
30-minute
hear.
teaching
Every
session,
business
and then we
owner
break for
needs
15 minutes
that
for a question and
accountability
answer
next to
session.
them,
So,
that
Aaron,
proven
what kind of great stuff
person
happens during that
next to them
15-minute
that
question and
can
answer
keep them
session after
going.
every teaching session?
I
Most
actually think
people
it's
think
the
that they
best part
don't need a
about the
business or
workshops
marketing
because here's
consultant
what happens. I've been to lots
human
of
nature
these
tends
things
to say
over the
we can
years.
do
I've
it all,
paid many
and
thousands of dollars
sometimes
to
we
go to
believe
them.
that, or
And you
maybe
go in
people
there
are
and they
prideful
talk
they don't
in
wanna
vague
ask for help, or
generalities and they're
I'm not
constantly
really sure. I
upselling
believe
you
that
for
one of the
something,
smartest
trying to
things
get you to
I've
buy
ever
this
done in
thing
my
or
whole
that
life,
thing or
definitely
this
in my
program
business,
or
is
this
hiring Clay
membership.
Clark and his team.
And you
Somebody
leave not
is
getting
missing out
your
on
very specific
years
questions
and years
answered
and
about
years
your
of
business or
experience
your
if they don't
employees
hire
or
them.
what you're doing
You can
on
either
your
make
marketing.
mistakes in your
And
business
what's awesome about this
because
is
you don't
we
have the
literally
experience,
answer
so you just
every
go out
single
there
question
and
that
you make
any
mistakes.
person asks.
Or
And it's
you
very
can
specific to
have
what your
somebody next
business
to
is.
you
And what we do is
that's been
we
there,
will allow
done
you
that,
as the
and
attendee
they
to
can
write your
give you a
questions on
heads
the
up.
whiteboard.
You're going in the
And
wrong
then we
direction, or
literally,
they
as you
can
mentioned,
give
we
you just
answer
that
every
wise advice
single
that says,
question on the
maybe you should
whiteboard.
go in
And then
this
we take a
direction.
15-minute
That's
break
what they're
to
missing out on.
stretch.
They're
And
missing
to make it
out
entertaining
on
when you're stretching,
years
this
of
is a true story.
experience that
When you
they
get up
have
and
not
stretch,
gleaned
you'll be greeted
themselves.
by mariachis. There's going to probably be alpaca here, llamas, helicopter rides, a coffee bar, a snow cone. I mean, there's just
You had a crocodile one time. That was pretty interesting.
You know, I should write that down and actually do that.
Sorry for that one guy that we lost.
The crocodile, we duct taped its face so that we duct taped.
No, it was a baby crocodile.
And it was duct tape.
Yeah, duct tape around the mouth so it didn't bite anybody. But it was really cool passing that thing around and
I should do that. I should. We have a small petting zoo that will be assembled. It's going to be great. And then you're in the company of hundreds of entrepreneurs. So there's not a lot of people in America today. In fact, there's less than 10 million people today, according to U.S. Debt Clock, that identify as being self-employed. So if you have a country with 350 million people, that means you have less than 3% of our population that's even self-employed. So you only have 3 out of every 100 people in America that are self-employed to begin with. And when Inc. magazine reports that 96% of businesses fail by default, by default, you have a 1 out of 1,000 chance of succeeding in the game of business. But yet, the average client that you and I work with, we can typically double this. I'm just no hyperbole, no exaggeration. I have thousands of testimonials to back this up. We have thousands of testimonials to back it up. But when you work with a home builder, when I work with a business owner, we can typically double the size of the company within 24 months. Double, and you say double? Yeah, there's businesses that we have tripled. There's businesses we've grown 8x. There's so many examples you can see at thrivetimeshow.com. But again, this is the most interactive, best business workshop on the planet. This is objectively the highest rated and most reviewed business workshop on the planet. And then you add to that Robert Kiyosaki, the best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You add to that Eric Trump, the man that runs the Trump Organization. You add to that Sean Baker. Now you might say, but Clay, is there more? I need more. Well, okay, Tom Wheelwright is the wealth strategist for Robert Kiyosaki. So people say, Robert Kiyosaki, who's his financial wealth advisor? Who's the guy who manages, who's his wealth strategist? His wealth strategist, Tom Wheelwright, will be here. And you say, Clay, I'm not going to get a ticket unless you give me more. Okay, fine. We're going to serve you the same meal both days. True story. We cater in the food. And because I keep it simple, I literally bring in the same food both days for lunch. It's Ted Escondido's, an incredible Mexican restaurant. That's going to happen. And Jill Donovan, our good friend, who is the founder of Rustic Cuff. She started that company in her home, and now she sells millions of dollars of apparel and products. That's rusticcuff.com. And someone says, I want
book
More.
their second appointment within a month of the first, they get 50%
I'm not going to mention their names right now because I'm working on it behind the scenes here. But we've got one guy who's given me a verbal to be here. And this is a guy who's one of the wealthiest people in Oklahoma. And nobody really knows who he is because he's built systems that are very utilitarian, that offer a lot of value. He's made a lot of money in the, it's where you rent, it's short, it's where you're renting storage spaces. He's a storage space guy. He owns the, what do you call that? The rental, storage space? Storage units. This guy owns storage units. He owns railroad cars. He owns a lot of assets that make money on a daily basis, but they're not like customer facing. Most people don't know who owns the mini storage facility, or most people don't know who owns the warehouse that's passively making money. Most people don't know who owns the railroad cars, but this guy, he's given me a verbal that he will be here, and we just continue to add more and more success stories. So if you're out there today and you want to change your life, you want to give yourself an incredible gift, you want a life-changing experience, you want to learn how to start and grow a company, go to thrivetimeshow.com. Go there right now. Thrivetimeshow.com. Request a ticket for the 2-day interactive event. Again, the day here is March 6th and 7th. March 6th and 7th. We just got confirmation. Robert Kiyosaki, best-selling author, Rich Dad Poor Dad. He'll be here. Eric Trump, the man who leads the Trump organization. It's going to be a blasty blast. There's no upsells. Aaron, I could not be more excited about this event.
I think it is incredible, and there's somebody out there right now you're watching, and you're like, but I already signed up for this incredible other program called Smoke Your Way to Thin. I think that's going to change your life. I promise you, this will be 10 times better than that.
People are finding us on Google, and they're already ready to
Don't do the Smoke Your Way to Thin conference. That is, I've tried it. Don't do it.
Yeah, chain smoking is not a viable. I mean, it is life changing. It is life changing. If you become a chain smoker, it is life changing.
Best weight loss program, though.
Right, not really. So if you're looking to have life changing results in a way that won't cause you to have a stoma, get your tickets at thrivetimeshow.com. Again, that's Aaron Antis. I'm Clay Clark, and reminding you and inviting you to come out to the 2-day interactive Thrive Time Show workshop right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I promise you, it will be a life-changing experience. We can't wait to see you right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Honestly, I feel like I get like that much value out of Luke. Just my meeting with him once a week. It's amazing. And it has just transformed my business in every single aspect. I mean, I always, aspired to be a successful business owner. And now, I mean, it's not even a question that this business is going to be successful, even if a pandemic happens and you have to shut down. I mean, if I can make it through that and directly because of them, it is absolutely because of them. Obviously, I'm a hard worker, blah, 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 all that. And, I was made to be an entrepreneur. However, having them as like the guiding light of this is what you need to do, and it's very straightforward, doesn't mean it's easy, but it is very straightforward of what needs to be done. And I like that. I like having that step-by-step process, and I love having the accountability, because there's a lot of stuff that they have me do that I don't want to do. It's not fun, but it works. And that, having that discipline to just do the things week after week, regardless if it's dull or boring or you don't want to do it, Luke really pushes me to do those things, which I love. I mean, I hate it at the time, but I love it because I can see how it's affecting my business in a positive way. And, I don't want to be just good. I want to be the best. And I see them as an integral part of that. And I will not be the best if I don't have them with me. So I love having them on my team, and it just feels like the best decision I ever made in my business. And I know I'm still really small and things like that, but there's a reason I reached out to them when I was small, because I want to be big, and I want to not grow and then collapse because I grew too quickly without the correct systems in place. So it's been amazing, and I would suggest anybody who's willing to put in the work and do things that make you uncomfortable, reach out to them. But if you are not willing to change the way you are doing things, if you're not willing to implement a no-brainer, if you're not willing to ask for Google reviews, if you're not willing to write content, really, really boring content for your website so the Google bots find you, then don't reach out. You need to be willing to put in the work as well. And your coach will hold you accountable, which I love. Again, the tough love is really great. Luke's like a stern father figure, but he's also nice, but also stern when he needs to be, when I'm being lazy and not doing the things that I know I need to do, because because I don't want to do them. So that's just great. Worth every penny. I mean, I'd pay him $1 million a month if I can, and maybe someday I'll be able to, but I would just say go for it. If it seems like a good fit, just go for it. Do what they say, even if you think it's stupid or ridiculous, just do what they say because it'll work. You know, people, when they look at my business, you know, people in my town, they think I'm lucky. They think I'm just, you know, things just happen for me. And, you know, maybe I am lucky, but it has a lot to do with hard work and, you know, perseverance and, you know, working till you cry sometimes. That's just being an entrepreneur, which if you're a business owner, you understand that. But it's having these systems in place of, you know, of course I'm going to be successful. It's an absolute because I have all this stuff in the background happening, and I have Luke and Clay and everybody on their team working really hard to make sure that I'm a success. And I can tell that they are just so excited every single week when I'm having all these wins and things like that. They're so excited for me. So it's the best thing ever, and I would suggest to anybody to work with them. So sorry for the long-winded reply, but I just had so much to say, and I could go on for hours probably about how amazing they are. But thank you to Clay and Luke and the entire team there, everything you guys have done for me, and I am so excited to continue to work with you for years to come.
Clay Clark is here somewhere. Where's my buddy Clay? Clay's the greatest. I met his goats today. I met his dogs. I met his chickens. I saw his compound. He's like the greatest guy.
I ran from his goats, his chickens, his dogs.
So this guy's like the greatest marketer you've ever seen, right? His entire life, Clay Clark, his entire life is marketing.
My name is Kevin Thomas, and the name of our company is MultiClean. We are a commercial janitorial service, and we serve the entire state of Oklahoma and Kansas and soon to be Arkansas. We have probably grown probably 5 times. I think when we first started with you, we had 60 to 65 employees, and now we have a little over 300 employees. Before we got involved with Thrivetime, we didn't really have any systems or processes in place. I've probably been to, in 6-7 years, I've probably been to 12 to 13 business conferences, and amazingly, each time I go, I learn something new, and I'm so excited to bring it back and show the team about marketing and how to implement